The second this new transfer student steps onto the high school campus, he instantly takes the throne, the undisputed king of every girl's heart. They are completely obsessed, trailing behind him like shadows. And honestly, it makes sense. The guy literally dominates in every single category. He sprints fast enough to make an Olympic gold medalist look lazy, and his skills in the kitchen, completely out of this world. While the other students struggle to roll basic sushi, Peter casually sculpts a perfect little rabbit right out of an apple. Naturally, the local school bullies refuse to just let that slide. They aggressively shove the fangirls out of the way, surrounding him with their entire gang to settle things. But the very second their leader steps up to throw a punch, Peter drops him completely cold with one single, brutal tap to the forehead. The guy hits the floor instantly. Another punk charges in, but Peter casually dodges every single strike. A clean sweep kick instantly drops the next attacker. Then some absolute coward pulls out a heavy brick, swinging at him from behind. Yet Peter easily sees that coming too and just shatters the solid brick with his bare hand. Now the girls are just completely starstruck. But trust me on this, they have absolutely no idea what his real secret is. Because this kid is actually history's deadliest assassin, heavily hunted by the entire criminal underworld. Every massive crime syndicate across the globe shares one mutual fear. They're absolutely terrified of a man named Peter. The real kicker, though, Peter is actually a 60-year-old senior citizen who is actively battling cancer. Cut to a different location where our masked hero is just systematically tearing a whole group of gang members apart. If he had simply followed the syndicate rules, he could have stayed history's greatest undisputed legend. But thanks to a few reckless moves, thousands are now hunting his head. Now, every dollar he stacked over decades of bloody work is about to burn. It is insanely tragic. The exact same organization he devoted his entire life to just betrayed him. Even with 1,000 eyes locked onto him, waves of elite hitmen are still desperately giving chase. And yet, Peter is still standing tall. He pulls off that mask, and we finally get to see the actual secret behind his insane survival. Our guy has somehow reverted straight back to his teenage body. Flashback 3 months, and elderly Peter manages a rundown library while taking a serious phone call. The doctor on the line sounds pretty stressed about him skipping appointments and ditching his meds. He reminds Peter that he only has 3 months left to live. But Peter just reflects on it all. He is not scared of dying after a lifetime of dancing on the absolute edge. Having given 50 years to his organization with zero regrets, our guy honestly feels totally fulfilled, though he suddenly realizes he never once took a picture of himself. Right then, a young woman walks in searching for middle school textbooks. Peter warmly welcomes her, explaining that his stock covers everything from 1960 all the way to modern prints. She claims they are for a younger sibling, but Peter takes one sharp look at her uniform. He checks her name tag and immediately guesses she is a third-year high schooler. Totally caught off guard, she asks how he could possibly know that. He just smiles, saying he basically knows everything that happens in this neighborhood. He hands over a heavy stack of books, but she quietly admits she cannot pay. Helping her out, Peter rips the covers, technically turning them into used items. She nervously tries to stop him, but he says her eyes show exactly how much she actually cares for her little sibling. He gently advises her to treat her family well while she still has the chance, because that is the only real way to live without any regrets. She asks if he has any regrets, and Peter openly admits that he does. Flashing back to his crying daughter and why he chose this brutal life, he looks right at the girl and says it is not too late to turn back. Suddenly, she leaps right onto the table with a drawn knife. But instead of panicking, Peter calmly offers to spare her if she confesses everything right now. Completely baffled by how he predicted her strike, she finds out he knew she was lying because he actually recognizes every single student in this area. Plus, the school she claimed to go to shut down 2 years ago. And honestly, her sweet perfume did not even come close to masking the scent. It is the sharp smell of her blade, something he knows perfectly from a long lifetime of bloodshed. Realizing he just completely played her, she readies a strike but hesitates. Sensing she is actually in way over her head, Peter shoots her one terrifying look, then just hands over the books. He mentions that he actually believes her about having a sibling. He then realizes she is from the exact same orphanage he grew up in. The organization is clearly still using those same twisted grooming methods. He bluntly warns her fail this hit, and she instantly becomes the next target. Suddenly, several armed goons storm the library and start blasting. Peter realizes this girl is basically just a hostage. She cannot fight back, and his own cancer leaves him pretty weak. A thug punches him hard, completely mocking the very idea. The idea that a living legend is losing to an illness. Their leader, a guy named Octomon, steps up and explains his boss is feeling pretty nervous. So they placed a massive bounty on his head, $7.6 million, which perfectly matches every cent in Peter's bank account. Octomon demands he fights back as the thugs relentlessly beat him. They finally step back, assuming the old man is knocked out. But those goons get a massive shock when Peter suddenly triggers a blinding flare bomb. Using the chaos, he lures them out back and easily makes his escape. He's bleeding out fast, and the girl just watches in pure confusion as his hunters close in. Fading away in a rainy playground, Peter hates that he could not even put up a real fight. His entire life flashes by. While ordinary people hit normal milestones, he was wiping out targets, tapping wires, and freezing on brutal battlefields as a spy. Then a new boss took over. Suddenly, his old age and terminal cancer made him completely useless. He refuses to let his life end as nothing, his mind flashing to his crying daughter. Meanwhile, the goons complain about his escape, hungry for that massive bounty. Out of nowhere, a guy walks in, joking that this is his first photo ever taken. The goons freeze it as Peter, except he looks totally different. Touching his face, he realizes he reverted to his absolute prime. They immediately threaten him, but Peter just demands to see Octomon. One thug throws a punch and Peter effortlessly snaps his hand. He crushes another guy with a lightning-fast combo. First-class agents make anything a weapon. Proving it right away, he batters a guard with a literal octopus leg, then tosses the next goon straight into a boiling pot. Peter grabs that old photograph of himself. A $7.6 million bounty, not bad. Realizing this picture is the only proof of his past, he lights up a cigarette and burns the evidence. The old Peter is officially dead. Looking ahead, he is more than ready to get back to work. Inside a speeding car, Octomon stews over their massive failure to capture him. With an official bounty dropping soon, he knows they need to move incredibly fast. The guy beside him brushes it off, surely that stage 4 cancer already put Peter in the ground. But Octomon refuses to let it go. As their senior, Peter owes them his massive hidden fortune before kicking the bucket. Back at the hideout, Peter kicks open the final door. Octomon is long gone. He calls him lucky and moves on. Later on, Peter steps into a public restroom. Bystanders totally freeze, mistaking this guy for some famous runway model. All thanks to that crazy youthful face. Staring right into the mirror, he sees his body is fully back in its prime. The combat wound is gone, and that agonizing cancer pain is completely erased. This is no fever dream. It is entirely real. How did this happen? No idea. But he knows one thing for sure. The organization will never recognize him looking like this. Tracking the old Peter is now impossible. His only problem right now is finding clothes that actually fit him. Right then, he overhears two guys bragging about a massive $80 million ad deal. One suit openly admits he scammed a desperate kid for pennies. Even with the boy's mother dying without any medical care, this CEO shows zero remorse. He just brags about buying a Rolex and Louis Vuitton gear to maintain his flashy, successful executive image. He thinks fake wealth is enough to blind kids into signing anything. Annoyed, Peter calls them out for smoking indoors. They just sneer back with total arrogance and attack him. They figure he's just some reckless kid. Peter starts to walk away, then casually locks the door behind him. Deciding to end this fast, he drops one guy with a single blow and easily disarms the other. Pointing out every sloppy flaw in the guy's knife grip, Peter overpowers the second suit without breaking a sweat. Leaving both men trembling on the tiles, his sheer aura makes one thing perfectly clear. He is totally beyond their level. He tells them to drop their filthy little scams immediately. After taking out the trash, Peter buys some decent clothes. He thinks bitterly about the organization he bled for. All he asked was that they leave his retirement funds alone instead. They hunted him like a dog. Stepping outside, he remembers starting at a tiny church orphanage. Over 50 years, that place mutated into the Glory Club, a massive underground syndicate secretly pulling the strings of global politics. Pure rage boils over. Right then, he decides to burn the entire organization down himself. Meanwhile, in a grim slaughterhouse filled with processed meat, a guy confronts Octomon for showing up completely alone. Octomon just calls him a total nobody compared to legends like Peter. That ticks the man off. He snaps that the Glory Club got way too arrogant hiding behind Peter's legacy. Overconfidence will be their downfall. Octomon ignores the boring lecture and prepares to leave. But watch this. The guy springs a massive ambush, calling in heavy hitters from a top-tier private military company. In seconds, he completely wrecks them. Octomon proves exactly why he holds that solid rank B+ status. His whole fighting style revolves around crazy body contortion and elite grappling. He completely crushes the guy, leaving him totally paralyzed with fear. Back at the hideout, Octomon checks out the mess. Total absolute destruction. Smashed security cameras and a totally empty weapon rack point him straight to one very obvious conclusion. Our protagonist did this. But it makes absolutely no sense. How did that old man survive, let alone come back strong enough to wreck his whole crew? Finding his top subordinate dead on the floor cranks his panic right up to 11. He barks at the girl standing nearby. Peter is getting a massive bounty soon, so she better report any sighting of him immediately. She still remembers Peter sparing her life not too long ago, But against her boss, she really has no choice but to nod. Right on cue, a totally random kid strolls into the base and takes a seat like he owns the place. The butler demands to know how on earth he sneaked inside. Turns out, our guy just walked right through the front door. He casually mentions a personal score to settle something about a debt directly tied to that huge bounty on Peter. Octomon goes on high alert instantly. He orders a lockdown and starts frantically doing the math in his head. He does not recognize this kid at all. He definitely does not belong to any known faction inside the Glory Club, so he starts guessing. Is this kid some kind of secret apprentice, or maybe a hidden backup connection to Peter? Pretty wild theory, considering our protagonist has literally always operated completely solo. Octomon offers the kid a free pass out if he just hands over some info, completely blind to the actual legend sitting right there. Our boy just brushes the offer off and drops a bombshell that you absolutely love to see. He flat out admits he is Peter. Back in a brand new younger body, he is here to tear apart the organization that betrayed him. Oh, and he totally killed those minions. He flashes this incredibly cocky grin, while Octomon just stares at him like his brain broke. The boss simply cannot process the claim. So Peter roasts his hearing and repeats loudly, "Yeah, I am the one who put them in the dirt." Octomon starts mentally scrambling. He figures the kid has to be bluffing, because if Peter really did it, this entire situation is completely absurd. He just cannot wrap his head around why someone claiming to be Peter would willingly walk right into their trap. The boss decides to give one final warning, pointing out that his guys are packing actual heavy firearms. "Drop the act right now," he orders, "and tell me exactly how you were connected to Peter." Noticing the girl from earlier gripping a knife, our boy finally decides to make a move. "You want the truth," Peter basically says, "then try and kill me for it." The villain actually finds the challenge pretty funny. Since taking lives is kind of his whole brand, he orders the butler to shoot the kid, just keeping him barely breathing for interrogation. But before the guy even touches the trigger, Peter casually flicks a single chopstick straight through his neck. A perfect critical hit, dropping him instantly to the floor. The girl just stands there completely paralyzed by the sheer speed of it. She quickly does the math. This guy might look her age, but absolutely nobody inside the Glory Club has combat skills even approaching that level. Nobody in the entire world possesses this kind of insane, terrifying talent. Honestly, Octomon admits that was a pretty neat trick. He demands to know what organization the kid represents, because talent like that doesn't stay hidden. He even pretends to offer Peter a spot on his crew, but it is entirely a cheap, transparent distraction. He suddenly whips out a gun and unloads. Peter reacts perfectly, diving right behind a nearby wooden table, while the boss just grins. He seriously thinks the kid's rookie status is showing. Only an amateur would believe a flimsy wooden table could stop a real bullet. This looks like the absolute perfect chance to corner him and force out all those closely guarded secrets about Peter. He still genuinely wants to recruit him. A lethal killer like that is way more profitable breathing than bleeding out. But taking his next shot, Octomon realizes the table is entirely empty, and that liquid dripping everywhere is definitely not blood, it is chili oil. He frantically scans the room. Now watch this next move closely. Our guy has completely vanished into thin air like an absolute ghost. Glancing up, the boss suddenly spots Peter casually hanging from a ceiling rail above. Before he can even blink, Peter spits that burning chili oil straight into his eyes, completely blinding him while kicking the gun away. The speed gap is just unfair. Octomon cannot even register the movement before his neck gets effortlessly snapped, sending his body slamming heavily against the floor. Barely conscious, Octomon finally understands one terrifying reality. He has absolutely never faced a monster this deadly before, especially packed into someone this young. His fading thoughts drift all the way back to his brutal, unforgiving childhood training. His old master taught him to always keep one final trump card ready, because one day, an overwhelmingly stronger enemy would inevitably show up. Defeating that kind of monster requires pure patience, just waiting patiently until their guard completely drops before breaking their momentum. Building on those exact teachings, the boss developed a completely unique fighting style. His mentor's brutal training turned him into an absolute beast, but the master hammered in one massive warning. The deadliest mistake any fighter can make is turning their back on an enemy, assuming the battle is already in the bag. Octon mastered that move as a kid. He genuinely believed he was invincible, snapping back to the present. He shoots his eyes open. He snatches Peter by the leg, coiling his whole body around him for a lethal chokehold. He reminds himself he survived this bloody business for decades. Absolutely no way this kid understands the wars he fought, ready to end it. But Peter simply slips right out of his grip and launches a totally relentless beatdown. Pure confusion sets in. The villain looks down, suddenly realizing he is not wrestling with our guy at all, just the cold body of his own butler. That oil ruined his vision, completely blurring the two targets together in the heat of battle. Decades in the assassination game kick in. Right then and there, Octon accepts his own inevitable death. He figures this mysterious young man might actually rival the 12 apostles, maybe even outclass them entirely. Panic hits hard. Octon grabs the girl and violently tries to bargain for his own life, treating a struggling hostage like a simple business deal. The protagonist seemingly accepts, giving the villain a false sense of security. Breathing a sigh of relief, the boss hands her over and heads for the exit. He fully plans to uncover our boy's identity for payback later. Right as he turns around, here comes the ultimate payback. Peter calmly recites that final lesson his teacher taught him. Octan freezes cold. The protagonist explains that the second someone shows their back to an enemy, while assuming the win is secured, is the exact moment they are basically already dead. The guy hears those words. The terrifying truth drops. The master who trained him decades ago was Peter this whole time. Before he even flinches, the protagonist reminds him nobody who sees the real Peter lives long enough to gossip about it. One quick dash. He finishes the villain with a single lethal strike. Meanwhile, on a rooftop, a subordinate confirms Octon is gone. He reports every single camera in the hideout is smashed. Zero clues left behind for the investigators. Nearby, a guy holding a perfect one-handed handstand is totally baffled. How does an old man take a bullet and recover overnight? How did he wipe out 4 trained killers, leaving zero evidence? Landing on his feet, he checks Peter's new bounty, $7.6 million US. That pushes him straight into SSS rank territory. He orders the updated intel sent to every single assassin in the Glory Club. The entire organization is hunting him now. Across the city, random pedestrians stare up at a massive digital billboard flashing the bounty. Our protagonist spots the bright announcement. He realizes they really went all out to advertise his price tag. Seeing Glory Club members gathering donations down the street, he figures they will not need to look very hard. He is bringing the fight directly to them. Not gonna lie, this hits different. Peter plans to crush the Glory Club completely, but Peter knows going against the Glory Club solo is basically suicide. So he immediately thinks of one specific backup plan. A certain girl he already knows. Still, kind of on the fence about actually working with her, he navigates through a massive men's washroom that seriously resembles a bombed-out junkyard. Glancing around, he notices this place somehow gets way more crowded every single time he visits. He mutters to himself, the vibe sits somewhere between an organ harvest and a steamy night out. Finally, finding the right door, he pulls it open. It reveals a hidden basement and a long staircase leading deep underground. Our boy takes a look around, flashy as always. Someone drops serious cash to spice up this environment, which is ironic since everyone down here is blind. Tragic, really. They cannot even appreciate a single piece of this incredibly expensive setup. Ji-won mentions things have been pretty quiet lately, but today she is stuck handling some messy corpse cleanup. She listens closely. The guy approaching has no alcohol smell on him at all, so she figures he is definitely not one of the usual thug clients. But she also knows he is no petty thief. She can easily smell the heavy, distinct metallic scent of a killer's blood clinging right to him. Sensing real danger, she bluntly asks if Glory sent him. Then she instantly swings her stick, forcing him to jump backward. She calls him a little rat. Impressed by his quick reflexes, she warns him to watch his step and chucks the stick straight at his head. Our hero glances at the pricey setup. He wonders what is even happening right now. At the same time, he seriously wonders how a blind person fights like an absolute pro. Ultimately figuring she is just faking her blindness, our boy swiftly slams her hand down, honestly admitting his real intentions. He admits he feels completely caught off guard, definitely didn't expect Glory to hire someone this dangerous nowadays. She actually managed to scare him for a second, but he points out her fatal flaw: she is way too soft. She clearly hates the idea of attacking a disabled target. Still, this standoff only ends with a body on the floor. Panicking, she screams for her guard dog. Attack Alexander ripped this intruder apart, but the massive hound just trots right up to Peter for some head scratches. The woman stands there, brain completely short-circuiting. She stares hard at his face. Clear skin, vibrant energy, that heavy scent of an old dying man is totally gone. It has only been 30 minutes since this started. How is this even real? She demands to know his ultimate endgame. Is he trying to solve the old man's murder? She desperately asks about the weapon, a gun, a bloody blade, or maybe poison. She wants that exact same youth formula for herself. Peter simply answers he's following the old man's path. He needs to uncover the exact truth behind that death. She asks if he seriously plans to fight all of Glory alone. Our boy nods that is the exact plan. He is walking right into the center of the hurricane, fully aware they want him dead. The ultimate strategy: tear the organization apart from the inside by becoming a brand new assassin for the Glory Club. She calls this absolute nonsense, a suicide mission. But Peter expected that reaction. Just wait until you hear his master plan. Then reality hits her. With his brand new youthful face, absolutely nobody is going to recognize him. If he infiltrates their ranks looking like this, The entire syndicate will map out their deadly schemes right to his face. She admits his reckless brain genuinely terrifies her sometimes, warning him that this wild infiltration is completely doomed to fail. Acting as his senior, she drops a harsh truth. Earning a spot as a glory assassin has one massive requirement. You have to come from Yongguang Orphanage. The old Peter had ties there, but this young version, a total nobody. Meaning he is completely disqualified. No glory club for him. Needing a backup route, our boy pivots his entire strategy. We cut to the massive campus of Shin Yongguang High School. The hallways are absolutely buzzing. A brand new transfer just walked in. The girls completely lose their minds over his flawless face. They whisper in total disbelief, did the famous Sunwoo Kim actually enroll right here? They swoon over his glowing visuals, claiming even his name drips with manly charisma. Then someone yells out, "Get to the assembly hall right now." Peter casually drifts along with the crowd. He quickly spots that Shin Yongguang is no normal campus. Built by the Glory Foundation, it plays the innocent academy perfectly. Girls crowd around him in the halls, playfully asking about his ideal type, though one quickly waves her hands defensively. She claims it is totally not for personal reasons. Spotting a teacher nearby, Peter warns her to just calm down. Student and teacher boundaries exist for a reason, but behind the homework, this place secretly runs an elite assassin training program. Peter knows this dark curriculum is his only backdoor into the Glory Club. Soon, inside a massive auditorium, students crowd the stage for a boring awards ceremony, clapping for a girl who just swept 14 national dance titles. But Peter crashes the event. He remembers the strict warning assassin classes are locked for orphanage kids only. He asks if there is literally any other loophole. Turns out, there is one crazy exception to the rigid rule. You just have to stand out enough to grab their attention. Our hero smirks time to make a massive scene. He strides onto the stage and taps the hot microphone. "Hello, Shin Yongguang. I am the new transfer, Sunwoo Kim. My only hobby is breaking bones, and my actual profession? I am a killer." The entire student body freezes in pure shock. Who the hell is this absolute maniac? Factions instantly start debating how to recruit him. Then Peter drops the punchline, a killer at hitting the books. That is, have a great semester, guys. The tension shatters into huge laughs, while a few elites quietly respect his insane confidence. Suddenly, massive guys shove through the crowd. The leader smirks, noting the stunt worked perfectly, and calls him the fake killer boy. He demands to know why Peter was flirting with his Yejin. Completely lost, our hero just stares back. The thug claims this is a perfect setup. He announces himself as Yul Jang, proudly loyal to his girl for 22 whole days. Shin Yongguang's power couple. He screams that Peter is trying to steal his woman, while a girl yells out, "Look, he totally stole her man." Yul vows bloody revenge, even though Peter calmly points out they literally just met. The bully throws his legendary Mapo District haymaker. For the very first time, it catches absolutely nothing but air. Peter instantly counters with a brutal right hook. He saw that amateur swing from a mile away. The thug crashes down, pathetically apologizing for failing his precious Yejin. A teacher rushes over, totally furious. He scolds Peter for brawling on campus and demands to know his father's location. Our boy casually drops that his dad is probably dead. Talk about awkward, the teacher quickly apologizes and tells him to follow. The educator chews out the delinquents. Meanwhile, Yul throws a tantrum, demanding a rematch with our protagonist. Even though nobody is actually restraining Yul, the onlookers just debate if they should investigate Peter or declare him entertaining. Some guys casually suggest murder while the teacher orders Peter to walk faster. Our boy hilariously notes they are moving at the exact same speed. Some female students swoon over the dreamy transfer student, completely ignoring how slightly cringe he acts. Now watch this. Yuna spots young Peter on campus and absolutely panics. She realizes he is actually infiltrating the entire institution. She sits by a flower bench when Peter approaches. He asks for a seat, and she instantly demands to know his agenda. Peter claims he escaped folks wanting his attention, then flips the question right back onto her. She questions his packed schedule, but he tells her to shut up. The protagonist suddenly brings up a dark flashback. Young Peter showed her a photo, asking if she wanted to survive by identifying the older version of himself. Pointing out the man who killed Octaman became her literal survival ticket. Now he demands to know why she still tracks him after he kept his word. Yuna fires back that the Glory faction set up extreme surveillance on her because of him. Does he even realize how difficult her life is now? Our protagonist sighs, claiming she is impossible to talk to. Eating burgers and staying alive is the absolute bare minimum after he spared her life. She argues his mercy only caused chaos. Peter shoots back she has no idea how cruel this awful place really is. She does not even know his true identity. He questions what an outsider can possibly achieve while she angrily grabs her plate to storm off. Before she leaves, the protagonist asks for her help. He needs every advantage possible and firmly believes she is already on his side. Promising to stay in touch, he completely shocks her by dropping her actual name before vanishing. Xinyang High School kicks off its sports festival. Enter track star Jonathan, the reigning 400-meter champion. Well, former champion. He retires his title immediately because the new transfer student is insanely fast, leaving Jonathan crying on a friend's shoulder. While a crowd of girls excitedly swarms Peter, our protagonist crushes a vision test, casually reading off the numbers 4 and 8. Revealing 20/20 vision, he shocks the onlookers. They seriously wonder if he is an alien. Cut to an advanced fruit carving class. The kitchen instructor loudly announces today's lesson. A student jokes that Peter was raised like absolute royalty. The teacher strictly warns everyone about knife safety. Peter goes all out, carving a detailed rabbit-shaped fruit sculpture. The class and teacher are left completely stunned. Later on, some boys ruthlessly bully Mr. Lee. They refuse to clean, mocking him as a weakling who only throws tantrums or hands out detention. The punks threaten to frame him for child abuse and revoke his license if he crosses their wealthy families. Mr. Lee calls it a rights violation. In response, one bully punches him down and tells him to shut his mouth. The kid threatens lawsuits unless the teacher backs off, even suggesting uploading a beating to TikTok for viral views. Enter Peter. He steps up, introduces himself as the transfer student and killer boy, then calmly asks if they just insulted a teacher. The punks immediately mock his edgy killer title, daring him to make a move. Our protagonist firmly holds his ground. One student swings hard, promising serious pain. Peter smoothly dodges every single strike before dropping the attacker with one punch. Another opponent throws a solid brick, but Peter shatters it barehanded. Terrified, the bullies beg for mercy while secretly vowing revenge. Peter checks on Mr. Lee. The teacher appreciates the backup, but immediately scolds our boy for fighting on school grounds again. Reaching for a phone, the educator calls his name and suddenly realizes Peter is definitely not ordinary. Peter's cup did not spill a single drop during that brawl. Stunned, the teacher asks where he learned to fight like a pro. Our protagonist silently reflects on getting brutal revenge against the Glory Club. They took his house, his family, his money, absolutely everything. He decides they are basically dead meat. Mr. Lee invites Peter to the volunteer club, admitting he waited for this. He waited for the protagonist to approach first, closely watching his race performance, vision test, and that flawless fruit sculpture. The teacher reveals Peter is the killer coach of Glory. He welcomes him to Xinyang's secret killer training class, the Volunteer Club. Here, chosen students learn assassination, trained and created by Glory. Peter walks in, completely expecting a normal volunteer club. He finds a normal room with average students, making our boy wonder if he's in the right place. Mr. Lee cheerfully announces a new volunteer. Sitting right there, Yuna panics, wondering why Peter showed up and praying he does not act friendly. Our boy winks at her, leaving her confused. She initially thinks he just got something in his eye. She then wonders if it is a signal for murder. Peter casually introduces himself, appreciating the very warm welcome. Peter thinks the club looks way too basic for killer training. Yuna finds the greeting completely pointless. Meanwhile, the others loudly gossip about the new arrival. They mention the club usually only drafts from Yangwang Orphanage, calling him a straight-up nepotism hire. Enter the Yangwang Orphans Biggie Do, whose specialty is high-speed movement, and Junior Doko, the powerhouse bringing superhuman strength and grappling to the table. Peter just stands there confused. He is literally from Yangwang Orphanage too, making their logic completely ridiculous. Mr. Lee pitches a quick welcome ceremony. The students immediately gear up for barbecue, treating our boy Peter like a little pig for the grill. Peter gets it. Glory training is still pretty hardcore. The two brothers step right up to welcome him themselves. Yuna tells them to back off, knowing Peter could snap them in half. He casually shoves the siblings aside. He warns them to step aside unless they want to get totally crushed. Yuna just shakes her head. She really tried to save those idiots. The brothers push up again, asking how many street delinquents he has actually fought before. Peter shrugs and says a few times, casually ignoring the fact he has fought over 1,500 battles. The boys laugh, telling him to prepare for his last stand. Closing the distance, they brag that this place is definitely not for ordinary punks. According to them, a guy like Peter has no clue what they risk daily just to become a legendary killer like Apostle Peter. Adding that there is zero room here for some lazy slacker, the two boys finally strike. But Peter simply slides backward, resetting his stance. He finds their annoying habit of finishing sentences together absolutely exhausting and tells them to bring it on. The brothers figure the new kid has a total death wish. They charge forward, boasting about their 18 hard years of combat training. Meanwhile, our boy quietly remembers his own 65 solid years of experience. The siblings throw another heavy strike. Someone yells out for them to take it easy. The brothers smirk, loudly claiming they only use half their strength. The other students clap, convinced the new kid chickened out and ran away without landing a hit, making it a joke. Peter quietly slips through a narrow alley. Yuna suddenly calls out from behind him. She asks if being a volunteer club member makes him feel superior to everyone. The protagonist just plays dumb, acting confused. But Yuna shuts that down fast. He really cannot fool her, she was watching closely. The girl noticed how every punch completely missed, while Peter never even clenched his fists. He casually replies that he always tries his best. Not gonna lie, she has a point. She calls him a total liar, unlike those two sweating fools. Peter has not dropped a single bead of sweat. Pinning Peter hard against the wall, she demands to know his real plan and what he is hiding. Sneaking into the school while hiding his real strength is highly suspicious. The protagonist simply asks if she really wants to know. When she tells him to cut the act and just answer, he casually slips away, sits on the ground, and claims they need a rain check for lunch. Yuna watches him leave, loudly muttering that it is literally midnight. The scene cuts away to a tired bus driver holding his warm tea. The guy thinks the sun always shines after a bad storm. Some crazy customer booked his entire bus for about 743 million Korean won, making it a lucky day. Glancing ahead, the driver gets pretty confused. There is only one passenger standing there instead of a massive tour group. Naturally, he asks where the rest of the party is. The passenger calmly explains he is traveling alone but brought quite a bit of luggage. The driver sighs and starts loading several large suitcases. His lucky day suddenly feels a whole lot like hard manual labor. The passenger touches a heavy bag, asking the driver to guess what is inside, but the older man remains completely clueless. As the bus rolls down the highway, the driver glares in the rearview mirror, thinking he definitely never agreed to play guessing games. While the weird passenger relaxes, the driver obsesses over those bags. A dark suspicion slowly grows inside him. Now watch this next part closely. He suddenly sees one suitcase physically move. Back at the club, Mr. Lee announces a brand new client commission. It comes from Mr. Yoon Chang Choi Deha, group chairman and a major glory sponsor. The instructor explains the stakes. Any squad that successfully completes this commission gets a personal recommendation directly from the chairman to immediately become official killers. Peter and Yuna know their time has finally come. Mr. Lee lays out the objective. They have to rescue the missing son of the chairman from a brutal recent string of teenage kidnappings. One student asks why a billionaire would not just call the cops. The teacher bluntly replies that the man wants bloody revenge. Instead, their only job is extracting the son. The students debate the risk, pointing out it normally takes 2 entire years of intense grinding to become official killers. Completing this single mission skips that entire step, though a few feel pretty guilty about it. They question why such a crucial job goes to rookies instead of veterans. Mr. Lee coldly tells the doubters they are welcome to stay behind. The brothers proudly step up to participate. They smirk, pointing out they have some extra weaklings and nepotism entries tagging along too. Yuna raises her hand to go, and Peter volunteers right beside her. She snaps at him to stop copying her moves, but Peter insists he had his hand raised the entire time. Yuna quickly reminds him this job is strictly for volunteer club members. He casually replies he counts as a member, even through nepotism. Everyone calls out they are ready to go. The target location turns out to be an actual amusement park. Walking inside, the Dacko brothers instantly look completely baffled by all the bright carnival attractions and the sparkling outfits. Junior openly wonders why these people are walking around outside in swimsuits. Iggy completely agrees with him. Yuna snaps at them to stop staring, her mind flashing back to Mr. Lee dropping the initial briefing. Chairman Choi had his son kidnapped right here. Meanwhile, 2 random girls suddenly approach Peter, asking to get his phone number. They even ask about his TikTok. The sudden female attention just leaves Peter completely confused. Yuna remembers their severe lack of solid clues. They only know the chairman's son vanished inside this massive theme park. No precise location, not even a single confirmation that the kid is even alive. But look at Peter unusually confident, acting like he already has a plan. When Peter suggests checking a spot first, a park employee standing by the ride apologizes. They actually need an advance reservation to get on. The worker asks them to step aside. This confuses the brothers, who books roller coaster seats in advance. They loudly declare they have zero time for that nonsense. The worker politely points them toward customer service instead. Nearby guests whisper about them clearly clueless newcomers who do not know they can just use the app. Yuna pulls out her smartphone to show Peter and the brothers. She quickly discovers that today's slots for the boat ride and haunted house are totally booked up. One guy immediately asks why she cares about rides during a serious mission. Cut to the entire group riding a bright carousel. They look genuinely thrilled on those fake horses. They hit a roller coaster next. Later on, Peter and Yuna pause at a shooting gallery. The shady owner plans to drain their wallets with a rigged game, though he decides to lower the difficulty slightly, simply because they look like decent kids. Yuna shyly admits she has never actually fired a toy gun before. Instead, she and Peter completely clean house. They win multiple giant teddy bears, thank the stunned man, and leave. Peter points straight at another ride. Meanwhile, the massive brothers yell for him to come join their amazing time. Our hero just watches them. He figures this is probably their first ever theme park visit and missed childhood experience, just like his. He sincerely hopes they enjoy every second before reality ruins it. Later, Yuna sits alone under a tree. She eats a sweet lollipop while scrolling through her phone. She realizes the guys completely forgot the actual mission. Then again, they are hardly normal kids playing around. Suddenly, Yuniel Choi's AirPods pop up on her tracking app. The signal points directly to the women's restroom. She immediately wonders, did a stranger find them, or does someone just share the exact same name? She briefly considers calling backup, but investigates alone instead. Inside the completely normal restroom, the digital signal points right at a random girl. Yuna flashes a friendly smile to avoid looking suspicious, politely asking the girl about those AirPods. This instantly terrifies the stranger. She calls her boyfriend in a panic, screaming that Yuna tried grabbing her from behind. The absurd lie completely shocks Yuna. She barely even moved. Suddenly, the angry boyfriend stomps over, aggressively confronting Yuna for harassing his girl. The girlfriend begs him to stop, explaining Yuna just wanted to apologize. But the angry guy refuses, insisting on teaching this intruder a painful lesson first. Meanwhile, Biggie asks if anyone spotted Yuna. Junior assumes she is off stuffing her face somewhere, and Peter honestly has zero clue either, but they figure she can handle herself. Back to Yuna lollipop casually in her mouth while fighting the boyfriend. She quickly leaps right onto a wooden bench. She trades fast punches, nearly jamming the lollipop stick straight into her ear before stopping herself. Realizing she completely lost her cool, Yuna breathes out. She calmly asks the terrified girlfriend where she actually found those AirPods. The shaking teenager nervously starts explaining everything. Back to Peter. Random park guests whisper and point as Yuna comes sprinting directly toward the boys. She reports finding the exact spot where Yuniel's AirPods were dropped. Peter nods, noting they finally found their real destination. Listen closely, it makes perfect sense. An amusement park has incredibly loud attractions to drown out screams, basically the easiest spot to make someone disappear. Yuna checks the haunted house reservation list. It is entirely sold out, yet not a single guest has actually walked inside all day. So Peter makes the call. They are hitting the haunted house. As the heavy doors creak open and they step inside, the brothers instantly drop their goofy act. They step up to cover Peter's back. Yuna sighs, quickly reminding them they insisted on taking the lead anyway. Peter realizes something feels incredibly wrong. He simply cannot sense a single living person inside. He tells everyone to brace for absolutely anything. When Yuna asks what is going on, Peter realizes their true mission is finally starting. Actually, it is already halfway done. He remembers Mr. Lee's strict briefing: successfully rescue the hostage and eliminate the kidnapper. It first requires getting kidnapped themselves. Everyone immediately plays along, deliberately losing consciousness. They collapse to the floor and shut their eyes tight. Sango Park slowly walks toward them. Meanwhile, back at headquarters, a panicked student sprints up to Mr. Lee, urgently asking where the kids went. The mentor instantly realizes something is horribly wrong, barking an order to contact them immediately. And with the calls completely ignored, he makes it clear this mission isn't simple, because they are up against a real monster. Mr. Lee drops a bombshell on the stunned student. Sango Park actually used to be a top-tier killer for glory. That is, until the organization lost control and threw him out. The student argues their classmates are fully trained for this, but the mentor insists they just do not grasp this kidnapper's true power. Right near the suitcases, Peter, Yuna, and the rest are totally knocked out beside Sango Park. The mysterious guy who rented out the whole bus admits he used chloroform on them. He points out a grim fact: unlike the movies, chloroform makes people pass out with their mouths wide open. Back to the student. They stare at Mr. Lee in total shock, begging him to stop this criminal right now. The mentor just slams his prosthetic leg on the table. The student keeps yelling that they have zero time to waste. Then it hits him. Sango Park already has the group in his clutches. A terrifying thought kicks in: what if he chops off their legs too? Meanwhile, Yuna slowly blinks awake, realizing they are totally trapped. Her phone suddenly vibrates with a call from Mr. Lee, but the kidnapper grabs it first and actually answers the teacher. Lee growls a harsh warning: touch my students and I will make you pay. The villain just laughs it off, mocking the teacher about how long it has been since their last little reunion. He sarcastically asks if that is really the proper way a senior should address his junior. Then comes the brutal taunt. He asks if Lee is scared he will chop off the kid's legs, exactly like he did to him. Mr. Lee absolutely loses his mind. This guy actually proposes a twisted game, challenging the teacher to guess how many student legs will still be attached when he finally shows up. Guess right, he promises, and Chairman Choi's kid walks free. But he adds a very dark warning. Get it wrong, and the consequences will be entirely different. Listening in, Yuna wonders why her teacher actually sounds so terrified right now. Lee furiously demands to know exactly where this psycho is hiding. Hearing her name called out over the phone, one of the brothers whispers a grim truth. Since she and Peter are the weakest links, they are definitely getting targeted first. The villain tells Lee to hurry up because the real fun is starting. Meanwhile, Yuna spots Peter right beside her. His mouth is wide open, and she just cannot believe this guy is actually fast asleep. Out of options, she slips off her sock and literally pokes his face with her toes. Peter immediately asks what she is doing, proving he was never asleep. Yuna quickly defends herself, claiming she just wanted to wake him. The protagonist just deadpans, "Did you really think the smell of your feet was the best way to do that?" Ignoring him, Yuna tells Peter to follow her lead, using her hard-earned training skills to slip out of her restraints. He watches her work. When she acts totally shocked that he is already free, Peter explains he kept himself ready in case this kidnapper tried anything funny. Yuna drops a serious warning: this is no ordinary hostage situation, because that man used to run with glory. He says he already knows that. Then he casually asks if she enjoys gambling, which leaves her completely confused. Her bonds finally snap loose. She and Peter start moving forward, just as the Dako brothers step into the area. One brother calls the kidnapper out, laughing that he has pretty massive guts for a standard office worker. He warns him to surrender right now, unless he actually wants to die. They have a mission to complete and want this wrapped up quickly. They aggressively demand to know where Chairman Choi's kid is hidden. The man just praises their bold confidence, casually offering them a brand new game, Win, and he promises to grant any request they want, including releasing the chairman's son. But if they lose, both of them have to give up a leg. Speeding blindly toward the amusement park, Mr. Lee is practically praying they do not take this psycho up on his challenge. The Dako brothers admit they totally misjudged him at first, but now they see his truly dangerous side. Brimming with confidence, they declare he will never walk again, ripping off their shirts to prepare for a brawl. The villain tosses knives their way, insisting that any good game is only fun when it is fair. The brothers smirk, warning he will deeply regret this since they are absolute masters with blades. The fight kicks off, and Biggie actually finds it way easier than he thought. Since they are using the exact same weapons, he figures this guy is just slow. He fully believes the advantage will totally shift his way as the brawl drags on. But watch closely, something is off. He realizes his knife has absolutely zero sharp edge to it. The kidnapper just flashes a genuinely creepy smile, saying the blade does not even need to be sharp. Peter and Yuna finally show up, calling out to Biggie and Junior to offer backup, but the brothers stubbornly yell at them to stay back. Their pride is talking if they cannot win, nobody else can either. The brothers tell the man he simply does not understand what drives them. They flash back to their brutal childhood at Yongwang Orphanage, specifically the final graduation trial known as the Hell Period. Stuck in an isolated forest for a whole month, they survived without food or water, armed with just one bullet. Thousands of vicious beasts prowled the area, and the other kids constantly betrayed each other or just completely gave up. But these brothers absolutely refused to go out like that. They held onto their single bullet right up to the end, convinced it would flip their fate completely. So when a massive bear showed up, they finally took the shot. Out of the 181 kids in their group, they were the only two left standing. And get this, they point out that Peter set an insane record 58 years ago. He actually cleared that hellish training without firing his bullet once. Snapping back to the present, the brothers confess something big. They have spent the last 10 solid years grinding to become absolute legends, just like him. To them, this kidnapper is just another minor obstacle in their way. They rush the guy, and Biggie actually manages to grab him, locking him down tight. Junior launches himself into the air, driving his blade straight down, but the man casually catches his wrist, declaring he will just be taking that arm instead. Junior forces the stab, but the guy effortlessly snaps the blade right in half. He brutally mocks them for even dreaming they could be like Peter. Then the kidnapper pulls out his real weapon, a massive Nepalese kukri. He calmly explains he has spent his entire life mastering this exact blade. It is way thicker and much faster than any normal knife. Honestly, the absolute perfect tool for a killer. The text on screen drops his name, Sango Park, a former glory killer holding a solid A-rank rating. The brothers are completely baffled by how easily he swings that heavy steel around. He dashes right at them, landing brutal back-to-back strikes that send them flying. They instantly realize this guy is a total monster. They scream for Peter and Yuna to run. Sango casually tells Yuna to calm down. He points out that he only spared them so far because they are just little kids, but he fully intends to finish their twisted game. He actually raises his kukri, aiming straight for their legs. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee is still driving, begging Sango to stop this madness. Yuna screams in total horror. She realizes he is actually going to chop them to pieces. The man flashes them an incredibly creepy smile, suggesting they play a little game. Peter completely deadpans, telling him to double the stakes. He offers up both of his legs, one arm, or even his own head. Actually impressed by that kind of crazy resolve, Sango happily agrees. He tosses a knife to Peter to keep things fair. Yuna quickly panics, warning him he absolutely cannot fight back using that tiny blade. But our guy just points at a large metal tray, declaring that is all he really needs. Sango bursts out laughing, mercilessly mocking Peter. He calls the tray an absolutely pathetic choice for defense. He even jokes that just looking at it is making him tear up from laughing so hard. Still, he gives Peter a cold warning. He is absolutely not holding back just because he is facing a little kid. Sango charges in with his heavy kukri, unleashing a vicious flurry of quick stabs. Peter casually deflects every single strike. He is basically using the tray as a makeshift shield. Sango sarcastically praises the kid's creativity, entirely convinced it is just a simple defensive move. He challenges Peter to take a wild guess at how many hits it can take. Sango is fully convinced one good swing will completely shatter the thing. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee keeps speeding steadily down the road toward the amusement park. He stresses over what is happening back there, totally determined to stop history from repeating itself. There is no way he will let this killer take everything from him a second time. His mind drifts back to an old casino memory. Back then, Sango calmly told a young woman to relax. For him, crazy situations like this were basically Tuesday. Since they were already in deep, he suggested a little game to see who walked out alive. He casually advised the dealer to place her bet on him. That is, if she actually wanted to make the smart choice. Right then, a whole squad of glory killers completely boxed Sango in. They warned him his constant reckless incidents were making the organization look really bad, so they were officially terminating him just to keep the outside forces happy. Only the veteran B rank and above killers got to stay. Every single person in that room fully believed Sango could never take down 5 B ranks at the same time. But as Mr. Lee watched in total shock, Sango just drew both his swords. His speed and power were so far beyond anything humanly possible. But here is the wild part. Sango brutally sliced off Mr. Lee's leg, instantly ending his glory killer career. Right then, the driver realized their heavy weapons never even mattered, because the second that guy pulled his blades, the fight was already over. Snapping back to the present, Sango takes a massive swing with his kukri. The heavy blade slices that metal tray cleanly into 2 perfect halves. He aggressively taunts Peter, bragging that his luck ran out and his pathetic shield is gone. Yuna sees things going south fast and knows she absolutely has to step in. Peter just calmly points out that kukris are normally heavy, blunt weapons, not super sharp knives. He actually admits he is pretty surprised by how insanely sharp Sango's blade really is. Right then, it hits Yuna. Peter never planned to use that tray defensively at all. Peter literally thanks the guy, telling him he just handed over the ultimate weapon. She finally gets it. He purposefully baited that heavy swing so the tray would split, giving him 2 brand new, razor-sharp blades to fight with. Sango chuckles, admitting the kid has some skills. He figures Peter is just trying to prove he is way tougher than some average child. But now he is actually starting to wonder if this was all just lucky coincidence. He clearly remembers lining up what should have been a flawless strike earlier. Yet Peter somehow stepped back at the exact perfect millisecond, completely dodged death, and got his tray split flawlessly. He realizes this definitely is not luck. The killer warns Peter his little tricks are useless. He decides to test if the kid is actually skilled or just getting incredibly lucky. He swings again. He is absolutely certain he landed a clean hit. He even felt the blade slice through flesh. But taking a second look, he realizes he only murdered a pillow. Sangdu freezes. Peter has already vanished and slipped right behind him. If he had not blocked that last strike with his bare hand, Peter would have sliced his neck open without a second thought. He also figures out that a broken serving tray cannot cut through thick clothes or block his heavy blades. That is exactly why Peter went straight for his exposed neck. As Sangdu struggles to track the kid's blinding speed, he seriously wonders if this boy is even human. The brawl rages on, with Peter constantly dodging and hitting back. Yuna watches from the sidelines. She notes that the killer's kukri is heavy enough to end a life in one single blow, but that massive weight makes him way too slow. She quickly realizes that if this fight drags out much longer, Peter is guaranteed to win. Suddenly, Sangdo shifts his entire stance, declaring you need the right gear to hunt real prey. Hidden blades slide right out of his heavy weapons. Ditching all that extra weight instantly makes him a whole lot faster. Yuna instantly spots the shift in momentum. Still, she finds it super weird that the guy is wildly swinging blades designed specifically for stabbing. He charges forward and screams for Peter to die. But right as he thrusts his blade, the weapon slips from his grip. The killer stands there completely stunned. Peter calmly asks, "Can you not feel your hands anymore?" Oh, the absolute disrespect here. Sangdu finally gets it. Peter never cared about his neck. He was aiming for his hands the entire time. The killer frantically demands to know what just happened. Peter happily explains that he completely severed every single muscle, tendon, and nerve needed to hold anything. He even lists them off, specifically naming the extensor muscles, adductor muscles, median nerve, radial nerve, and ulnar nerve. Peter drops the ultimate bombshell: he never actually planned to kill this guy from the very beginning. Sang-doo completely panics. He finally realizes Peter is no regular high school kid and becomes absolutely convinced this boy has slaughtered countless people. Our hero then cheerfully reminds his attacker of his big speech about how a flimsy metal tray could never win. Oh, how the tables have turned. Peter declares he will beat him with the exact same tray he made fun of. Sang-doo suddenly flashes back to his youth, where endless bullying was his daily routine. The absolute worst guys constantly mocked him, laughing at his pain and asking if he wanted more. Thanks to them, he lived every single day consumed by pure murderous rage, but he completely lacked the spine to actually fight back. That all changed the day his bullies promised to leave him alone if he fought two angry dogs. Sitting right there in rock bottom, he practically wanted to die, but someone suggested treating it like a game, and his heart exploded. His body just moved on autopilot, discovering that betting his actual life on sick games gave him superpowers. The massive rush of pure adrenaline and dopamine turned combat into an addictive drug. From that day forward, he never lost once. Snapping back to the present, Peter wraps the broken serving tray around his fist. He unleashes a brutal punch that sends the killer flying backward. The tray clatters to the ground. Sang-doo stares in absolute terror, practically begging Peter to stay away from him. The desperate killer grabs a live grenade. He points it straight at the nearby suitcases, revealing they hold the kidnapped kids, including Chairman Choi's own son. Yuna realizes the horrific truth and knows that detonating a grenade in a room full of gas pipes means game over for everyone. Now watch this epic reversal. The kidnapper threatens to send everyone to hell, screaming at Peter to kneel and beg for mercy. But before the guy can even blink, Peter shoves the active grenade right into his mouth. The killer is completely baffled, while Peter cheerfully notes that anyone who plays with grenades knows exactly what happens when the pin goes missing. He advises Sang-doo to bite down incredibly hard if he wants to live, totally mocking his cheap intimidation tactics. The killer sweats bullets with an explosive in his teeth. Finally, Peter knocks him back and casually replaces the pin. "Stop crying," he says. "This fight is not over yet." Watching this madness unfold, Yuna worries the maniac might pull another stunt, yelling at Peter to wait. With the explosive gone, Sang-doo literally begs for a draw. He promises to keep his mouth shut and free all the kids if they just spare his life. Mr. Lee finally bursts through the door, completely dumbfounded to see this terrifying assassin begging for mercy. Peter casually asks the man where those pretty Samba girls are hiding. The Wild Rescue Commission officially concludes, with every single victim safely rescued, including Chairman Choi's kid. Sang-doo keeps whining for a draw, even while getting tied up. After running away from the organization 13 years ago, this so-called legendary killer ended up being a total joke. He gets zipped into a body bag, shipped straight off to Glory headquarters like regular luggage. He's still begging for mercy as the bag zips shut. Mr. Lee just breathes a sigh of relief. His career-ending nightmare is finally over. It hits him that Peter and the Dako brothers actually took down the main villain. He decides to stop overthinking the whole crazy battle. Right before heading out, Peter tells Yuna to grab a blanket so she doesn't freeze. With the job done, the Dako brothers officially become actual killers. But they get super depressed over receiving D-rank cards. Come on, Sango was definitely an A or S-rank threat. Riding a creepy elevator down, panic sets in. Are they being led to an execution? The doors slide open to reveal a squad of totally jacked women. The brothers instantly smash the close button, pretending they got the wrong floor. One of the women steps up, stating she was expecting them. Suddenly acting tough again, the brothers strut right out to accept her welcome. She guides them inside, mentioning the chairman wants to meet the guys who saved the Deha group's successor. They get treated to a massive feast in a gorgeous dining room. She explains the chairman ordered his staff to grant their every wish. They even get hooked up with perfectly tailored custom suits. The brothers puff out their chests, bragging about how lucky Peter and Yuna are to tag along. She mentions the grand prize is next door, revealing an insane armory packed with top-tier rifles and gear. The chairman says they can grab absolutely anything they want. The brothers try acting humble at first, before quickly snatching up some shiny new rifles. Yuna spots some gorgeous Damascus knives but leaves them alone, feeling she didn't do enough in the fight to earn one. Peter shocks everyone by picking up a simple fountain pen. Everyone is completely confused. You would expect a young guy to grab heavy artillery, but Peter just casually points out he knows how to use it. Right after that, the woman gets a message the chairman wants a solo chat with Peter. The brothers instantly complain about getting left out, but she shuts it down. Peter only. Riding up, she compliments his weird weapon choice. Peter just shrugs and says he happens to know that specific model well. She points out it was a limited edition from 40 years ago. Peter claims it was his grandfather's, which makes zero sense to her, considering he grew up in an orphanage. When he asks why the boss wants him, she honestly has no clue. They finally arrive. She escorts Peter right into the massive office, leaving him completely alone with Yoon Chang-choi, head of the DHA group. The chairman gives a warm welcome, checking if he liked the meal and the suit. Peter cuts to the chase about why he is here. The chairman promises there are no hidden tricks, totally getting why Peter feels on edge. But here is where it gets crazy. The old man drops a bomb. He knows exactly who Peter really is. Peter actually flinches at the name. We flash back. The chairman recalls a cold night on Namsan Mountain, December 24th, 1978. Inside a shady cabin, some guy is tied to a chair, taking a brutal beating from two thugs. They scream that there is only one way to save a kidnapped kid. South Korea has to hand over its jointly developed missiles to the Soviet Union. If those wild demands are not met, the Daeha Group chairman's son is going to die. Somewhere else, the panicked chairman is told to calm down. The president has already made the call to the United States. Elite special forces, including the legendary Delta Force, are already flying to Moscow to bring his son back. But that false hope dies instantly. A sniper on a passing train shoots their helicopter right out of the sky. News drops that the entire Delta Force squad got wiped out. When someone asks the chairman if he is really talking about that specific place, he nods. We cut to Yongwang Cathedral. The chairman is practically breaking the door down, begging the father to answer him. He screams that his boy Yoon Chang was snatched by the Soviet Union. He promises the DHA group's total backing for a whole century if the church helps, begging him to unleash the strongest of their 12 apostles. The priest plays dumb at first, but the chairman refuses to leave. Finally, the old man calmly replies there is no reason to panic. Everything follows the Lord's plan, he says, telling everyone to just pray. The chairman stands there, stunned. Prayer is their master plan for this nightmare? Game over. A guy points out 3 elite special forces teams already died. The priest just smiles. The apostle he sent can handle the whole thing solo. Cut to Peter boarding a train, officially revealed as the strongest of all 12 apostles. The goons on the train totally freak out. How did he get here, and is he seriously flying solo? He confirms it. Then, he blows a hole straight through one guy's skull. He walks through the carriages, dropping every single enemy with surgical precision. Turns out, he brought the exact number of bullets for this bloodbath. In the next car, a Russian kidnapper holds a teenage Yoon Chang at gunpoint. He screams at Peter to drop the gun, or the kid gets it. The kidnapper smirks, bringing up the wild stories he knows about Peter, the lone monster who always walks away as the last man standing. Expecting a hardened veteran, he watches Peter slowly raise his hands. But then Yoon Chang catches the fluent Korean. Peter drops his voice, keep your head down on 3. The kidnapper barks at them to use Russian, but the countdown already starts. 3 hits. The guy pulls the trigger, but Peter flicks a single coin straight through his skull, dropping the assailant dead on the spot. Go back to speaking Russian, Peter says, tossing out a final goodbye. Turns out this dead man was a KGB lieutenant colonel. Safe now, Yoon stammers out a thank you. Peter just lights a cigarette, and when the boy asks about his nationality, he simply pats his head. Nothing personal, he explains. He only came here to secure the future of the massive Daewoo group. Get up, Peter orders. It is a long journey back home. Yoon just stares up at his savior with deep awe in his eyes. He finds the guy incredibly cool. Cut to the present, the chairman knows he only breathes today because of Peter. 40 whole years he kept that savior's face burned into his memory. Now, looking straight at our current protagonist, the chairman completely assumes this kid is his savior's grandson. Peter lets out a quiet breath of relief, glad the old man missed the actual truth. The resemblance is remarkable, the chairman notes, surprised since he never heard that the original savior had any family. It has been decades since anyone actually spoke that name, Peter thinks. Honestly, he is glad the scared boy survived to become such a successful gentleman. The chairman asks why Peter only grabbed a simple fountain pen from the armory. He politely brushes it off. The old man's kindness is plenty enough. Not a chance. The chairman refuses to let his savior's grandson walk away empty-handed, pushing a real token of appreciation forward. He hands over the St. Petrus 44. He proudly explains that this absolute beast holds the highest motorcycle speed record in the world. It can reach 327.59 miles per hour, rocking a stealth function, making it totally invisible to GPS and security cameras. Yuna shakes her head. Peter does not need things like that. Meanwhile, the Dio brothers wonder why there is so much wild commotion over it. Junior snaps at Biggie to quit acting like a toddler. They approach the woman, trying to trade their weapons for the bike, but she shuts them down fast. Peter tosses Yuna a helmet and tells her to mount up. She complies, leaving the complaining brothers choking on their dust. Their coach calls up, asking if they are enjoying themselves. He drops the news that Glory's senior members demand a meeting right now. A literal gathering of killers catches the brothers off guard. But get this, Coach explains a special hiring like this is the first in 4 years. Since the seniors are extremely curious, he tells the boys to show everyone exactly what they can do. The brothers peel out on a weird one-wheel vehicle, completely determined to make those seniors regret the challenge. Yuna yells at Peter to go faster so they do not fall behind. Our boy easily agrees, mostly wanting to distance himself from those idiots. Anyway, Mr. Lee tells them to arrive loud, announce that the crazy talent everyone wished for has finally come. They finally hit the Glory Club Gangseo branch, the imposing Hapjeong Yongwon Cathedral. The brothers joke about the difficulty of being celebrities in a killer club. They assume their S-rank status makes them the total center of attention. Peter glances over, asking Yuna if she is ready. He feels a messy mix of hope and concern seeing the others act way too excited. Inside, people sit quietly in prayer. Glory killers receive their bloody assignments called revolutions entirely based on their rank. After praying for a safe journey, they receive their mission and a rank badge. Yuna and Peter quietly watch this strange process unfold. Biggie nudges Junior, bragging that their assignment is likely a direct promotion mission to reach S rank. But reading the paper, it literally just says, fight, fight. Confused, they hear a bystander mutter that fresh meat usually does not receive real missions. Biggie tries acting confident, but the father interrupts him, addressing the newcomers. He explains that they always offer a cup of secret blood to new arrivals. The brothers are totally impressed by his warm smile, genuinely thinking this is their big chance to get on his good side. Instead, the father dumps the cup over their heads, smiling brightly to welcome the D-rank deadbeats. Peter calmly greets the soaked group, noting that he has been waiting for their big arrival. He remarks how many people fail to fear true pain until they finally experience it themselves. He assumes these arrogant newcomers are no different. As he speaks, the surrounding killers start throwing out dark warnings. Around here, they declare, rank is the only actual thing that matters. They firmly caution the D.O. brothers against expecting special treatment just because they are older. They mock the boys for their insane arrogance as B-rank killers, reminding them that in this bloody world there are absolutely no rules. They label the brothers as pathetic little brats, completely blind to their own rock bottom standing in the grim hierarchy. Dripping with blood, Biggie and Junior fiercely shoot back that they were literally born to reach the top. Remember our names. They yell, we're the next S-rank apostles. But the father finds all this loud talkativeness completely unacceptable. Playtime is officially over for B-rank killers, he declares. The other killers just stare, genuinely surprised by the sheer audacity of these brothers. He wonders if they really are just kids, considering how quickly they challenge a senior. The father steps right toward them. Yuna notices the boys have gotten a lot more confident. They actually look even stronger than during their last fight with Sangwoo Park. The father finds this whole setup pretty strange too, wondering where their terrified past selves went. Suddenly, Biggie moves with absolute lightning speed, appearing right behind the man and grabbing hold of him. Shocked, the father wonders how the kid closed that gap so fast. Biggie yells out to Junior, who instantly charges in swinging both fists. Meanwhile, the brother drops down to grab the father's legs. Remembering the kid's dream of growing up to be just like him, the father thinks back to having that exact same dream in his own youth. But he decides these newcomers need a harsh reality check. He raises his cane, blocks Junior's heavy punch, and makes it totally clear playtime is officially over. Yuna realizes they must step in. Right then, Director Jen steps out, asking how it feels to finally watch real killers in action. Turns out the director is a B-rank glory killer, fully specialized in gliding. He actually earned this spot by dedicating his whole life to the bloody job, which is the ultimate proof of worth for most killers. This whole organization is strictly structured. Listen to these numbers. 336 D ranks hunt ordinary citizens, while 200 C ranks handle gangs and violent street crime. 100 B ranks manage their internal conflicts. Beyond them, 36 A rank killers take care of the big national security assassinations. The second someone steps into this underground world, their life becomes an endless loop of bloodshed. Climbing that ladder is an incredibly exhausting, painful journey. Even total obsession cannot guarantee anyone an ascent to S rank. Those 12 elite S rank killers are called the Apostles, basically the absolute best in the organization. Back in the brutal fight, Biggie is slammed onto the ground, the father pinning his neck tight. The man asks, does the kid want to know how someone actually becomes an apostle? He winds up to strike, warning they will be totally killed and reborn. He says this is the heavy price for mouthing off to his senior. The father brutally mocks them as orphans with no mothers to cry to. Then he glares right at Yuna. He calls her a lowly Octoman minion, claiming she barely even deserves that D-rank badge. He laughs at the thought of her becoming a real killer, suggesting no matter how hard she grinds, she will never reach Octoman's level. But Peter suddenly grabs his hand. He went way too far. He calmly warns the guy to stop crossing boundaries. Completely surprised by the brat's cold reaction, the father asks if he wants a real fight, but Peter simply denies it. Peter remembers Juwon warning him carefully. He cannot draw any unwanted attention. She previously questioned how a rookie D rank like him could have possibly crushed a crazy A rank opponent like Sangwoo Park. She warned it was only a matter of time before the organization figured out his true monstrous nature. She told him to drop the hero act and stop trying to save kids. Peter knows to get his revenge, he has to stay completely hidden and play his part as a weak D rank. The father suddenly punches Peter right in the face, asking if he feels impressive now, and accuses him of just acting tough for his girlfriend. Peter casually takes the hit, quietly asking the man to let their friends go to the hospital. He notes one kid has a nasty stab wound while the other is fully unconscious. They seriously need immediate treatment. The father threatens him for speaking to an officer like that. Peter just apologizes, promising he definitely will not forget this lesson. Smug and satisfied, the senior finally drops it, demanding they hand over their volunteer licenses immediately. He says they can come grab them whenever they are strong enough to challenge him. The four of them leave the cathedral, completely confused and dreading how they will explain losing their licenses to their harsh coach. Biggie apologizes for failing to protect everyone, though he admits their interference probably saved them from way worse injuries. He promises the licenses can easily be replaced, admitting he hated them seeing him looking so utterly weak. Peter calmly puts on his bike helmet, calls Biggie the captain, and suggests they just go grab some lunch. Riding his bike with Yuna on back, she asks what she can do to actually get stronger. Peter finds the question silly, but when she asks if he is upset, he says there is no reason to be. They lost those licenses because they were weaker, meaning it was just an inevitable outcome. Yuna stays annoyed, admitting it felt pretty satisfying when they actually managed to fight back earlier. Meanwhile, back inside the cathedral, two men discuss how good it felt to completely crush those brats. They assume the kids are already packing up to find different work. They mention that tall, handsome boy. Even for his age, they notice the look in his eyes was something truly vicious. But watch closely, Peter suddenly walks right back into the cathedral. They mock him, asking if he wants another beating or just to repent. Peter just sits down on a bench to pray. They keep right on taunting him over his earlier defiance. They warn him he is about to find out just how terrifying this world really is. Peter stays totally unfazed, telling them that is exactly why he showed up. He drops a bombshell tonight. For the absolute first and last time, they are going to meet an S-rank killer. They are about to witness what an apostle can really do. But one guy laughs, openly mocking what some random teenage kid could possibly pull off. With 14 long years in this bloody business, the guy openly claims he has absolutely never met someone so incredibly arrogant. It is time to teach this punk a lesson. He orders Mr. Zhang to give Peter a brutal beating and toss him out, but Zhang hesitates, staring closely at our guy. Realizing this kid is just a high schooler, some D-rank nobody whose name he cannot even remember right now, Peter just stands there perfectly still, looking completely defenseless with nothing but a tiny rosary. Wait. Even so, the attacker senses something is horribly wrong. That icy, hollow stare definitely belongs to no ordinary D-rank rookie. The others just watch in confusion, wondering why the senior is freezing up and getting scared. Zhang tries desperately to convince himself Peter is just some rude brat with a sharp glare. His inner instincts are clearly playing massive tricks on him. Reciting an unspoken rule of the killer world, seniors have full rights to execute any junior caught plotting against them. He tells Peter he will throw a book, and natural human instinct will force a block. As predicted, Peter blocks. The senior strikes immediately, totally sure the protagonist is now wide open. Total agony. He expects the kid to just double over immediately. Instinct makes humans grab their fresh wounds. But here is the wild part. The attacker never aimed for the side. He went straight for the eye. But this counterattack is totally insane. The rosary in Peter's hand shatters, and he actually uses the loose beads as a weapon. He wraps them tight around the guy's neck, yanking hard enough to slice right into the skin. Pure shock. While the bystanders watch, the senior just stands there violently shivering. He mutters he simply cannot fight, truly feeling like he already died here countless times. Decades of endless combat gave him this deep gut instinct to sense a defeat before drawing his blade. But this heavy, completely suffocating dread right now, it is worse than anything he imagined. Overwhelmed by fear and a sudden urge to die, he actually drops down, begging Peter for total forgiveness. He promises he will never cross him again. Peter calmly agrees that sensing death is a pretty basic skill for any killer, admitting the senior is quite capable. The other man just stands there, completely shocked and speechless. Pathetic. He cannot grasp why Mr. Zhang would let some teenage punk completely break him. Jan pulls up in her car with her dog, wondering how things went so wrong for Zhang. She asks Peter why he started trouble, warning him about the massive fallout if caught. Our boy stays totally chill, casually assuring her that will never happen. She suddenly realizes the man Peter just crushed was actually a B-rank killer. The absolute humiliation of losing to an 18-year-old high school student is something he can never admit. Trying to offer him a quick ride, she just watches as he totally ignores her and speeds off on his motorcycle, leaving her super annoyed. Cut away. The Dacko brothers are stressing hard over Mr. Lee. They know he will completely freak out finding their volunteer licenses gone. They picture him screaming that those cards are basically their actual lives. Right as they start panicking, some random guy walks up and naturally offers help. Claiming the power of Christ compels him to do a good deed today. Caught totally off guard, the brothers demand to know if he wants trouble. Dropping the tough act, he happily hands back the licenses to the incredibly relieved brothers. Biggie actually stammers a thank you, admitting he thought the guy was a total jerk. The response? The stranger just tells them to screw off. Walking away, he shudders, realizing Peter still gives him massive goosebumps. Meanwhile, our boy is secretly standing right nearby, intently reading his student record book. Peter remembers he still needs to hand back Yuna's volunteer license, but the girl is nowhere in sight. A bit later, Biggie and Junior get asked to show their cards. They stubbornly refuse, arrogantly bragging to the new trainees, boasting that the real killers they fought were way stronger. In the training room, downstairs, Yuna trains entirely alone, flashing back to that brutal fight between Sango Park and Biggie. She remembers being called absolutely pathetic, realizing she was useless. She firmly believes that unless she gets much stronger, she is only going to get her brother Eugene killed. Suddenly, Peter walks in, asking why she loves calling herself pathetic before tossing back her license. Yuna stubbornly insists she has not earned it. He straight up asks if absolutely everything she does is just for her brother, questioning why she forces herself into a violent job she clearly hates. Telling him to shut up, she claims he knows absolutely nothing. Peter simply admits he actually knows quite a few things. Not her brother, like the hidden fact that Eugene is not actually real family. Stunned, she asks how. Peter just asks what really happened between them. Triggered, Yuna flashes right back to her past, remembering when Eugene tried to... He just wanted to be a family, but she pushed him right away, told him they weren't even related. She never really had a family to begin with, dropped in a subway locker as a baby and shipped straight to an orphanage. Getting close to people only meant getting hurt, so she shut everyone out, often wishing she had just died instead. She remembers taking a bullet on a mission, bleeding out fast. The doctors straight up refused to treat her, said the cost wasn't worth it. But Eugene begged them on his knees. Yuna was convinced her time was up until her eyes opened in a hospital room. A doctor calls her survival a total miracle. Then she finds out Eugene basically refused to ever leave her side. He demanded they save his sister, even if it cost him his own life. When she finally tracks him down, he is in absolutely critical condition, yet still only asking if she is okay. That hits her hard. Pushing him away was a massive mistake. He is the one single person who actually cares. Hearing the doctors complain loudly about how much his blood packs cost, and even suggesting they just pull the plug, she completely breaks down. She begs them to help, declaring she is his family, and vows to pay back every single penny of his bills. Back in the present, Yuna realizes that exact moment gave her a reason to live. Blood relation means nothing to her anymore. She will save him. Meanwhile, Peter apologizes for prying too much into her past and turns to leave. But Yuna stops him right there. Knowing he is flat out the strongest guy she has ever met, she asks Peter to help her get stronger. Peter just stares, asking if this is seriously how she normally begs for a massive favor. Yuna feels a massive wave of embarrassment hit her. She tells herself to keep it cool. It was just a tiny slip of the tongue. She tries again, formally bowing and asking him to be her master. Peter dryly asks if that is supposed to look like a serious plea. Instantly losing her temper, she snaps back, fine. She does not need a teacher anyway. She got this far all by herself. Peter casually mentions he was actually thinking about her on his way over. Her attitude does a complete 180 right on the spot, asking if he is finally agreeing to train her. He sighs, admitting that just the thought of dealing with her gives him a massive headache. She tells him to quit whining and just make her stronger. Peter kicks things off by listing out her many flaws: terrible physical strength, awful stamina, a ridiculously short temper, and a bad habit of panicking. He points out she basically has every single weakness a killer could possibly have. Highly offended, she demands to know if he is insulting her character. No, he explains, despite all that garbage, her eyes are completely built for murder. He points out that from start to finish, she never once looks away during a fight. Thinking back on it, especially that messy brawl with the Dacko brothers and her wild clash against Sangdo Park, she realizes he is totally right. Her brain subconsciously memorizes every single movement. Peter compares her crazy dynamic vision to top-tier pro baseball players. Her ability to track tiny details in high-speed fights is actually way better than theirs. He admits he was genuinely shocked when she perfectly tracked Sangdo's exact finger movements back then. Suspicious, She asks why he is suddenly being nice. It is just the truth, he shrugs. But here is the thing, he knows a specific weapon that flips her weaknesses into pure strength, letting her crush anyone. He holds out his hand, and something starts glowing bright. Meanwhile, we cut over to the Daco brothers, literally sniffing their cash, bragging about how D-rank killers pull in 1,000,001 a week. They figure apostles must be making 10 times that amount easily, though they admit cash probably means nothing to monsters who can just take whatever they want anyway. They casually talk about buying new headphones, while Peter wonders where Yuna ran off to. The brothers guess she is working her part-time gig, which throws Peter off. She has been at it for 2 straight weeks, scrubbing up literal blood and guts after messy missions. They actually respect her insane mental toughness. That cleanup job is just too gruesome for them to stomach. They start guessing where all her money goes. One bets she blows it all on groceries, since she eats like an absolute beast. The other argues she hoards it by scavenging free school lunches. Peter tunes out their stupid chatter entirely. He is positive something with Eugene is draining her bank account in secret. Suddenly, a text pops up, Yuna telling them to bring a scarf, even though it is spring. They pull up to a factory sitting at a freezing -20 degrees. Yuna announces she is here to train. With that glowing weapon Peter showed off earlier, a heavy rope dart. Peter explains this old-school wushu tool gets deadlier with speed and spinning momentum, making the user's next strike totally unpredictable. The brothers laugh it off as a joke compared to actual guns. But Yuna proves them completely wrong, launching the heavy dart straight through a massive block of solid ice. Even after she shreds multiple blocks in just one single swing, they stay skeptical right up until they see the damage, instantly scrambling to look up how much the weapon costs online. Yuna tells the idiots to whisper if they want to be sneaky. Meanwhile, the factory owner, Bingsu Park, walks over. He points out that plenty of assassins train here, but nobody ever wrecks the place quite like this. He drops a fun fact: Peter paid 1,000,001 for the ice 3 hours ago. Then he tosses her some ointment for those scarred hands. Yuna heads out. She agonizes over typing a simple text to Peter, eventually giving up and just calling the guy. She awkwardly asks what he is having for lunch. Spicy pork and strawberries. He tells her a pretty wild combo. Before hanging up, he congratulates her on finally discovering her true weapon. Back at the factory, the brothers try messing around with the dart themselves. They quickly realize Yuna curving her throws is pure, ridiculous talent. For anyone else, that takes years. Peter walks off, thinking about how she actually found her groove. He remembers a highly specific entry in her file about training under a rope dart master. Meanwhile, the scene cuts to an absolutely battered Sango Park. He stands in a pile of beaten assassins, screaming that no low-rank scrub is ever taking him down. A mysterious guy just strolls up and grabs Sango's dropped weapon. He casually suggests they play a little game. He wants to see if Sango, the guy who nearly hit S rank, can actually beat a true apostle. Sango just freezes in pure shock, realizing exactly who he is dealing with. Over at Seoul Yangwang General Hospital, a little girl is bawling on the floor. Needles are terrifying, understandably. The Du brothers immediately start roasting her, calling her a massive chicken who desperately needs to grow up. They jokingly ask the nurse to just completely knock her out with anesthesia instead. Yuna immediately calls them absolute idiots, but when the nurse starts drawing blood, the siblings actually get weirded out by how much is filling the tubes. Why take so much? Well, Peter finds out every newly hired glory assassin has to go through a full physical at this place. As the rookies shuffle through endless medical stations, the nurse asks for Peter's birth year, and he rattles it off. Honestly, all these regular medical exams are annoying, but that blood test is a massive red flag. He knows exactly why the organization hoards these samples. It is basically a permanent leash on every single killer. Sure, Peter got his youth back, but his fingerprints and DNA are totally unchanged. Glory uses all those biometrics to hunt down potential traitors. Here is the fatal flaw in his grand return. The nurse ties the tourniquet, and Peter realizes his DNA in their database is going to be a 100% match with his current blood. His true identity getting exposed is basically guaranteed. Cut to Juwon's house. She absolutely tears into him for willingly taking a blood test right after picking a fight with B-rank assassins. She lays on the sarcasm hard. Why not just take out a billboard announcing he is the legendary Peter? Surprisingly, our guy thinks advertising himself actually sounds pretty solid. That just makes her even more insanely frustrated. She threatens to just kill him right now. But Peter calmly insists he already cooked up a foolproof plan. His big brain strategy? Just blow up the entire hospital. Juwon instantly smacks him across the head. She yells at him to wake up. Peter whines about the pain, but she snaps that getting younger completely rotted his brain. Does he even comprehend what kind of nightmare that hospital actually is? Peter shrugs, well aware it is a massive Glory Club facility. Seoul Yongwon General happens to be the absolute biggest medical center they run in all of Korea. It looks completely normal outside. In secret, it helps assassins by tossing out dead bodies, faking assassinations as tragic medical accidents, and running illegal surgeries. Peter knows exactly what that means. Their data center definitely holds his DNA records, making pure destruction his only way out. But Jiwon points out the obvious flaw: he still has to get past the guy guarding the place. The scene cuts to a dude staring at a giant monitor. Meet the roadblock code-named Nathaniel. Once, he was a genius doctor hailed as an absolute blessing from heaven. Then he vanished. A shady medical incident went down 4 years back in Rio de Janeiro. During that whole mess, cops found bodies swinging from ropes high across the street. At first, they actually thought it was a sick joke. Every victim belonged to local gangs. Naturally, the surviving factions completely turned on each other. The police captain saw his chance to wipe the board clean, ordering full lethal force. On site, a soldier catches the scent of gunpowder, realizing a massive shootout just happened. The squad pushes in, only to find the gunmen inside absolutely shredded. Their bodies are twisted up so badly, there is no way a normal human did this. One soldier immediately suggests backing out, but a hand shoots out of the dark, dragging Sergeant Fernando away. The captain screams ambush and calls for backup, then dead silence. Nothing left but heavy smoke and pooling blood. The surviving soldiers slowly look up. Corpses dangle from the ceiling, heads completely gone. Their raw necks somehow fuse right to the concrete. A mysterious figure quietly shifts through the hanging bodies. He demands a real challenge. Soldiers open fire, but bullets do absolutely nothing. In just one day, the 6 gangs ruling Rio for 30 years and the elite military police are completely wiped off the map. Back in the present at Jiwon's place, she asks if Peter found anything useful inside those secret Rio government files she dug up. Peter studies the files. He seriously doubts a normal human could crush a gun with pure strength. She reminds him the hospital hides exactly that kind of monster. A sneaky approach might be better than charging straight in. Peter admits she just gave him the perfect way to breach that hospital. She complains about wasting her effort, but he quickly assures her he actually has another plan that needs her specific help. Out on a highway with a massive billboard, Peter decides he just needs to send a quick greeting card. The billboard gets hacked, announcing loud and clear that Peter is coming for Nathaniel. Inside a car, a white-haired man watches the screen. He tells Jiwon he hacks straight into the Glory server to post it. He warns she is risking her life with this reckless stunt. But she fires back Peter hasn't failed a mission in 50 years. Over at the hospital, killers whisper about the ad. They are shocked Peter survived. Someone actually hacked headquarters. Immediately, squads of D-rank killers are dispatched to hunt him. Many complain they are way too weak for this. Then they spot famous Brazilian killers, including Agent Funerario, the Undertaker of Rio. They whisper among themselves. Seeing an A-rank killer is incredibly rare, let alone Nathaniel. A battle between 2 apostles is about to unfold. Most bet on the doctor. Peter is almost 70 and supposedly sick with cancer. But the Du brothers loudly declare Peter will absolutely win. The other killers quickly scold them for cheering on their own target. Not a chance. The old man will never leave this hospital alive. Right as they talk, Peter silently appears behind the brothers. Outside, an officer addresses the crowd. He orders them not to engage Peter directly. They must approach him respectfully as a senior. Once close, they need to use issued tranquilizers. He warns them that Peter can drop an elephant in under 3 seconds flat. If they spot him, they must hit an emergency button immediately, so a rank backup can be deployed. Orders received. The killers scatter in every direction to start the hunt. Peter watches, thinking this will be fun. Meanwhile, men gather in a pool with a mysterious guy. He has a massive masked queen tattoo spanning his back. They discuss the reality of Peter declaring war. One guy points out this declaration has everyone terrified for Glory's future. People are already starting to question if the new boss is actually fit to rule. Another man looks deeply anxious, admitting they never should have messed with Peter just to trim the fat. He points out their target is completely off the grid right now, ready to strike and destroy everything. Someone asks Yoon Chong if he truly grasps how relentless Peter gets. Another guy advises him to beg for peace while he still can. He urges him to just surrender if he cannot. Fix this mess. Stop dragging everyone else down. The tattooed man casually apologizes for not thinking it through. He promises to handle things properly from this exact moment forward. He mutters under his breath. People were nice for one split second, then decided they could easily walk all over him. As the new army chief of staff, he thinks they should have just stepped down. He completely dismisses them as nothing but decrepit vermin. Privately, he smiles. He is waiting for Peter. This upcoming bloodbath is going to be his absolute masterpiece. To show up his predecessors, let us see who survives. Over at Seoul Yongwon General Hospital, crack. Peter twists a man's neck into alignment. The patient sighs in relief, totally praising our boy for being highly skilled despite his youth. Peter humbly calls it a regular day. Honestly, though, he usually uses those exact techniques for entirely different purposes. He asks the guy about a doctor named Hyena. The patient has no idea. Dead end. Peter calmly strolls down the corridor. He figures the doctor dropped his old identity, gone into deep hiding. So here is the game. The imposter is hiding in this building, and it is a lethal race to find the other first. The Dew brothers walk up, telling him it is time to move. Peter notices them casually pushing patients with neck casts. One brother calls him picky. Peter asks about Yuna, and Biggie explains she joined the active mission. Peter mentions Yuna is only ranked 335. The older man smirks. Peter is 336, yet acts as their associate, essentially their right hand. Searching the lobby, the siblings tell Peter he did a They praise the guy good job and tell him to call immediately if anything seems off, promising full protection. They clearly think he's totally helpless in a fight. Then Biggie throws his arms wide, claiming he finally found Peter. He holds up an ancient photo to some random guy walking past, wondering if this is their target, but Peter totally disagrees. The Dacko brothers actually block this elderly guy, asking if he is the legendary hero they need. The old man proudly fires back, yep, he was a massive hero back in the Vietnam War. The brothers insist he cannot hang around here and try to quietly shove him toward the exit. The old guy loudly protests, so one brother threatens him with a syringe. A nurse casually walks up to Peter, and when he asks what is going on, she replies, "Do not worry," she says. The old man already had his blood test. Right then, Peter realizes the hunt is officially on. All across the hospital, nurses start telling every single patient they need mandatory blood tests. The Dacko brothers are still aggressively wrestling this poor old man out the door. Out of nowhere, Yuna bumps right into Biggie. He angrily demands to know why she's here. She's only ranked 335, absolutely not allowed inside. She quickly lies, claiming her little brother is here, then sprints off. Biggie just figures she panicked, while Jiwon whispers to Peter through a hidden earpiece. She warns him to stop worrying about his junior right now. Jiwon asks if he spotted Nathaniel yet, since his first sweep turned up completely empty. Peter murmurs back, still working on a plan. He knows staying perfectly undercover is the only way to lure this guy into the open. Enter Rodrigo, a massive B-rank killer from Undertaker. He steps up and issues a brutal warning to the Glory crew. Fail this job, and he kills you himself. Peter smoothly steps in, introducing himself as Sunu Kim, just a lowly D-rank member. He promises to just pass through quietly. Our protagonist figures it out. If the main target absolutely refuses to step out, he has to create some juicy bait. Jiwon fully agrees, deciding to head inside and get her whole team ready for a fight. Rocking a male nurse disguise, Peter strolls right into the operating room. Rodrigo demands his identity, and Peter casually repeats the lie, just a D rank, handling surgical prep. The big assassin barks at him to go find Peter immediately, but Peter just smirks, noting he is actually looking for an enraged Nathaniel to make this whole thing easier. Furious, Rodrigo snaps back. A piece of trash D rank has zero right to speak that name. Peter casually points out there is only one reason an assassin asks where a target is: they want to kill them. The brawl kicks off instantly. The arrogant B-rank fighter actually thinks the timing is perfect. Somewhere deeper inside, an assistant shows a doctor live security footage. Peter absolutely wrecking the killer. The physician quietly counts to 10 and stares in pure shock as Peter flattens the B-rank threat. He is really here. Panicking, the doctor demands to know where Peter went. The assistant stammers out the bad news: the camera feeds are getting wiped in real time, and their tech team cannot stop it. He practically begs the boss for mercy. Now check this out. The scene shifts to Sango Park, floating completely submerged inside a massive chemical tank. The guy is absolutely thrilled Peter finally showed up. The doctor walks right up to the captive prisoner and gestures at the other tanks holding Grace, Carter, Xavier, and Robert. They are all just sitting here, waiting for Peter to arrive. The smug medic brags they finally trapped their prey, bringing up how Mr. Kim guaranteed every single detail was perfectly planned. Meanwhile, Peter checks in with Jiwon. He just put down Nathaniel's little guard dog, so the boss is bound to show up. She agrees Nathaniel has to be furious by now. Peter decides to just wait and launch an ambush. Later, he spots Yuna aggressively eating and asks what she is doing. She tries to bolt, but he forces her back into the seat. He smoothly claims he accidentally ordered way too much chicken and needs someone to help kill time. Yuna reluctantly starts chewing, but the vibe shifts hard when Peter asks why she's actually at this hospital. She drops the act, explaining that the old man she deeply cares about took a bullet protecting her. Peter slides a photo of Nathaniel across the screen, telling her straight up, do not even try lying about recognizing him. Yuna drops a massive bomb. The guy in the picture is not the real Nathaniel. But before she can elaborate, a cold voice calls her name. It is Nathaniel himself wearing a doctor coat and acting as the general manager of the entire hospital. He asks why she is wandering without a security escort. Peter realizes the villain finally stepped into the light. Nathaniel steps right up to Yuna, asking her to identify the young guy beside her, all while staring a hole straight through Peter. She immediately realizes putting these two in the same room will only end in massive bloodshed. Playing the part perfectly, Peter politely introduces himself as a D-rank killer. He explains he was sent on this specific mission and never expected to actually meet such a prestigious legend in person. Our boy smiles, promising to do absolutely everything he can to ensure Nathaniel is fully taken care of, asking the doctor to leave the heavy lifting to him. Nathaniel slowly turns back to Yuna, telling her to visit his office the second rounds are done. He promises to send a guard to safely escort her. As the boss casually walks away, Peter watches his back. He immediately realizes this guy is on a completely different level. In the corridor, an assistant steps up to the doctor. He reports that some teacher over at Xingyang High School insists the kid who fought Sangho Park just got incredibly lucky and is totally harmless. Nathaniel ignores that he decides to see for himself. He demands the requested profile. The aide nervously hands the file over, but ends up fumbling and dropping it entirely, apologizing profusely for his clumsy fingers. Nathaniel stays totally quiet. Out of nowhere, the doctor remembers shaking Peter's hand earlier. He thinks back to their introduction. Something about that weird little twitch in our guy's hand catches his attention. He asks his aide for the D-rank killer's actual name. The staffer confirms the guy hanging out with Yuna goes by Sungu Kim. Nathaniel casually mentions he wants to keep Peter very close. This kid would make an absolutely perfect test sample. Because of that, Peter gets officially assigned to the doctor's personal entourage. A bit later, our guy calls Jiwan. His ally demands he finish the mission and get out immediately. She literally cannot understand why he accepted this gig. Peter simply says it sounds pretty fun. Plus, even though Nathaniel knows an intruder is currently hiding inside the hospital, the doctor still cannot pinpoint him. Jiwan loses it. She squeezes her juice box until it bursts everywhere and angrily asks what exactly is wrong with his brain. If he gets caught, she warns, everyone is basically dead. Our guy admits he still has no clue what the entourage even does, but he expects to find out real soon. He hangs up and goes right back to playing chess with a little girl. Peter excitedly calls her a chess queen, begging for another round. A bystander points out Peter was definitely going easy on her. Then, a staff member walks up, handing him a key card labeled A036. This little piece of plastic unlocks every single room in the hospital. The guy congratulates Peter for scoring the new position, noting the doctor almost never lets anyone into his inner circle. Then the employee lays down 3 incredibly strict rules. Peter must never speak unless spoken to, never question the doctor's actions, and definitely never refuse an act of kindness. What kind of kindness makes hospital staff this nervous? Peter silently wonders. The assistant guides Peter down the hall, warning him that the doctor hates waiting around. The second he walks in, Nathaniel says, "Our guy arrived at the absolute perfect time." The doctor is surrounded by the Undertakers of Rio, an elite Brazilian squad packed with A-rank and B-rank killers. These nasty mercenaries care about absolutely nothing but pure bloodshed. They hold zero loyalty to the Glory organization and serve Nathaniel completely blindly. The doctor demands an update on the intruder hunt. His aide confirms all hospital entrances are fully sealed. An announcement suddenly echoes through the building, claiming a deadly virus leaked. Everyone gets ordered straight into quarantine. The aide explains they collected DNA from every single elderly patient in the hospital just to identify our guy. He estimates the lab testing will take about 48 hours. Since our boy cannot escape the massive lockdown, his capture feels totally inevitable. Peter just listens silently. And yeah, he realizes this guy's logic is actually rock solid. Taking down Nathaniel will be way harder than he thought. The group continues rounds, stopping by a young male patient. Nathaniel gently cheers the kid up. He promises that if he pushes through this heavy treatment, he can finally play soccer and go back to school. The doctor then instructs the nurse to focus purely on the radial nerve, rather than more surgery, since the patient's body is too weak. He asks Dr. Young to step in and assist. Peter genuinely wonders if this is some weird test, because they have literally only done routine checkups. Suddenly, Nathaniel asks if our boy is disappointed. Is he bored by the lack of action? Or maybe waiting to see the doctor's true colors? Peter calmly claims he is not disappointed, but Nathaniel calls him a flat-out liar. He invites Peter to follow along and see something completely different. They head down into an area that does not exist on any hospital map. Following a dim light down a long passage, the group reaches a heavily secured door. Nathaniel swipes his keycard. The metal doors slide open, revealing a massive underground lab packed with huge glass chambers full of human test subjects. Peter finds the whole place absolutely sickening. But get this, the doctor proudly declares this is where his dreams become reality. Nathaniel claims Charles Darwin was dead wrong. True evolution is not just some random matter of nature or coincidence. It is a process he personally controls. He explains that he actively eliminates the weak and cultivates the strong, which is exactly why he is so interested in Peter. Blaring alarms suddenly trigger a test specimen just broke out and hits stage 4. As the monster sprints toward the exit, security forces rapidly fire off paralysis needles, yelling that the surface gates are locking down. The countdown hits 0. The gate starts sliding shut, but Nathaniel's bare hands suddenly burst through the concrete wall, grabbing the panicked specimen right by the face. It stops cold. The doctor casually scolds the screaming creature for rudely interrupting his conversation. Turning his attention back to Peter, Nathaniel explains that he drags in strong fighters just to strip their humanity away and study them. The guy claims he dissected every single muscle and cell personally. The twisted doctor looks Peter up and down, seeing massive potential. He wants to forge our boy into the ultimate embodiment of his dark vision, a massive level up. He offers to train him into an A-rank killer, maybe even someone on an apostle level. Peter immediately clocks that Nathaniel hides terrifying, completely unnatural strength. We are talking about shattering solid stone with a bare fist. Later on, Peter regroups with Jiwan, total shock on her face. How did Nathaniel sense someone through a wall and react that flawlessly? She begs our boy to bail. Peter flat out refuses. He is only getting started. Time to expose this crazy power. 48 hours have passed. Those DNA results are definitely sitting in that office right now. Peter decides to use his keycard to break in and swap the results. Jiwan frantically warns him he is going to get caught, but our boy trusts his math. He calculates exactly 4 minutes and 30 seconds to hunt down those files and pull off the swap. Meanwhile, Nathaniel demands a status update on those exact DNA results. The aide reports they compared every elderly patient sample, and absolutely nothing matched Peter. The doctor finds this little detail incredibly interesting. He actually looks up, wondering if Peter is hiding in the ceiling, then just brushes it off. Suspicion creeps in. Did our boy ditch his old face entirely? Nathaniel strides back into his office, only to find Peter casually waiting inside. He looms right behind him, cold fury. Why exactly is a garbage-tier D-rank killer hanging out inside an apostle's private sanctuary? Peter instantly reads the room. According to his flawless mental math, this guy was not supposed to walk back in for another 30 seconds. This early arrival changes everything. All that fake kindness and that little tour of the secret lab, totally a calculated trap from the start, designed entirely to make Peter drop his guard. He suddenly realizes the doc was highly suspicious of him this entire time. Nathaniel coldly demands a very good reason for him being there. Playing dumb, Peter claims he just dropped off files requested by Dr. Hong. He spins around, making a move for the door. A heavy hand clamps onto his shoulder. The doctor points out that Peter clearly rummaged through the files already. He asks why our boy cared so much about the elderly blood samples if he supposedly had zero clue where they were kept. Fail to give a solid excuse right now, and there is only one logical conclusion left. Faces and words can be faked, he growls, but DNA never lies. Peter feels the chill. The doc is talking directly about him. Keeping his absolute cool, Peter calmly suggests that since the target is missing, he figured the guy was hiding in the hospital under a new face. He claims he was just checking plastic surgery records for a match, then politely offers to run a second sweep of the files. Knowing the doc is totally onto him, Peter decides to weaponize that exact suspicion. He humbly bows his head. He spits out a fake, desperate apology for overstepping bounds just to catch his target. Nathaniel spots a speck of dirt on Peter's face and snaps at him to wipe it. He seems smug that our boy takes the mission seriously, but warns him to uphold the Glory Organization's dignity. Then, he finally dismisses him. Peter mutters a quick thanks and escapes the room. Left alone, Nathaniel pulls out an old photo of Peter. Staring hard, he realizes that face was real, not some clever mask. Boiling with frustration, he violently crushes it. This guy is absolutely convinced this random D-rank loser is not the Apostle Peter he wants. Now check out this insane flashback. He remembers this lawless underground coliseum, stepping right up to the reigning undisputed champion. This guy was a Mexican brawler named Slasher, famous for lethal kicks. The doctor walked up, mocked his entire reputation, and just cleanly severed his leg. He remembers hunting down the world's strongest, tearing the arm off a legendary fist fighter, and straight up massacring a whole gang. Cut back to reality. A butcher shop, headless bodies hanging from the ceiling. He crossed the entire globe just to personally break the strongest beings alive. He remembers hoisting one victim by the throat who gasped out a warning. He would never be the strongest while Peter existed. The doctor coldly replied, "Every single kill? Just a stepping stone toward his ultimate goal." But before he could rip out Peter's exact location, the guy just died on him. Back in the present, Nathaniel stares at that photo, realizing whoever saw Peter last definitely knows his current location. He dials his assistant, ordering him to drag Yuna upstairs immediately. You have got to love the irony here. Elsewhere, the Dako brothers are interrogating Yuna, wondering how a low-tier killer scored this critical mission. She just smirks and jokes that they better start acting like sick patients if they want to survive this. Word on the street is she walked into the clinic earlier. Now, a massive guy steps up, telling Yuna the doctor needs to see her right this second. She hesitates. The guy steps closer, asking if she actually intends to disobey. The brothers stare in total shock. An A-rank Undertaker member is personally acting as her escort. Yuna steps inside the office. Nathaniel is waiting, the protagonist's photo resting right on his desk. He brings up her survival track record alongside our main guy. Even other patients hardly ever manage to kill each other like this. And yet, somehow, she made it through an impulse attack and a clash with a high-ranking monster like Sang-du Park. The doctor leans in. The Apostle's already figured out the protagonist has been backing her up, so he straight up accuses her of playing spy. He demands to know what she possibly offered him for protection. Yuna flares up in pure anger, but he completely brushes off her reaction. Instead, he casually brings up Eugene, her little brother battling hemophilia with less than 3 years left on his clock. He dangles a literal lifeline. A hospital-developed serum worth exactly 4.5 billion won. The price is simple. Tell the protagonist to meet him under the hospital lobby clock tower at exactly 2 p.m. on the 24th. You can see the manipulation happening here. It is the perfect trap. He reminds her she could never afford that cure alone. She saves Eugene while he bags his target. A new prescription. Then, he abruptly grabs her arm and forcefully snaps her wrist. Healthy people do not get admitted here, he states coldly. If she even thinks about refusing the deal, Eugene is next in line for pain. Telling her he will drop by during rounds, he casually walks out. Left alone in her room, the terrifying reality of her situation crashes down. If this dark secret gets out, Nathaniel will completely wipe out her, Eugene, and the protagonist. Speak of the devil, the protagonist suddenly walks right in. He announces it is injection time, then casually flips the TV to a random singing contest. Yuna immediately tells him to leave. He just shrugs, claiming this is his way of paying her back for saving him. He actually mocks her for pushing him away, asking point blank if this whole attitude is just because of that doctor. Tapping her swollen wrist with the remote, he points out he definitely did not cause that damage, so who did? Yuna hesitates for a second, then quietly asks about his schedule for the 24th. He asks why she cares. Her response is simple: meet her right under the clock tower at 2 p.m. sharp on that exact day. She begs him to just listen to her this once, seeing it as her only way out. He finally agrees and heads right out the door. Alone again, she breaks down crying over her brother's photo, desperately praying she just made the right call. Nathaniel is basically counting down the seconds to the 24th. He fully believes his prey is finally walking right into his hands. He patches through to Yuna's earpiece, demanding the target's location. She keeps her voice steady, reporting that the guy should be pulling up any minute now. The clock ticks toward 2 p.m. as our guy strolls down the main corridor. On the comms, the doctor impatiently barks at everyone to hurry up. Meanwhile, Yuna is on a call with Eugene. Spotting 3 guys in her new profile picture, he immediately asks if she finally got a boyfriend. She laughs it off. They are strictly friends. Eugene sounds genuinely shocked, having zero clue she even hung out with people. Pointing out the good-looking guy right in the center, he jokingly teases her, asking if there is a little crush going on. She strongly denies it. Eugene just laughs, teasing her defensive tone before saying he actually really wants to play a round of soccer with the guy. His voice softens as he talks about wanting to watch the World Cup in 3 years. Without skipping a beat, Yuna promises to take him there herself. She even starts looking at flight tickets right then. Eugene gets super hyped at first about finally traveling out of the country, but then he suddenly backpedals. He claims to be terrified of flying. She immediately waves off his weak excuse. He finally caves. He is just stressing over the massive cost. She softly tells him to drop the money, worries completely. She promises everything is totally handled. He just needs to focus on looking forward to the big game. Then she drops the news a doctor just created a miracle cure. One single drop, and his health will bounce right back. He is pretty skeptical, but she pushes him to stay hopeful. Smiling, he simply calls himself incredibly lucky to have her. She jokingly tells him to quit being so dramatic, admitting she is pretty exhausted. They say their good nights, and the line goes quiet. The second she hangs up, the phone slips. Hitting the ground, a blinding wave of pain shoots straight up her fractured, swollen wrist. She repeats it like a mantra. This is her only move. There are 0 other choices left. Her thoughts drift right to Peter. Is he actually coming? She silently begs our boy to stick to the script and show up right at 2 p.m. Flashback to their earlier talk. She had actually directed him to the park's clock tower, not the hospital lobby, warning him the lobby was a total death trap. Peter had agreed. Now, watching him arrive and casually check the time, the crushing weight of the whole situation hits her hard. Think about the stakes. Because Peter killed that apostle, he is in grave danger. With the hospital lobby completely packed with armed guards at every corner, she realizes that even he might struggle. Even someone as strong as Peter is totally in over his head here. She silently prays for him to just run away. She thinks back to sending him toward the park just to dodge this trap. Scanning the lobby, her mind drifts right back to Sungu. He just crashed into her life right out of nowhere. Despite doubting him at first, he actually showed her the pure joy of sharing a meal. He gave her real companionship. Through the absolute worst times, he had her back and helped her find her own inner strength. She knows she could never betray him. Suddenly, Nathaniel walks right up to Yuna and demands an update. Totally startled, she lies straight to his face, claiming she has not heard a single word from Peter since that day. She immediately apologizes. She explains she only lied to secure the promised cure for her sick brother. She literally begs Nathaniel for work, promising to do absolutely any task, even scrubbing floors. She insists she is training hard to become his very best worker. Nathaniel coldly points out her failure to bring Peter in, making her completely useless now. He snaps his cane in half, mocking her pathetic training, and he orders his men to drag in the next target. Out of nowhere, a fire alarm blares through the hospital, sparking a totally frantic evacuation. Biggie rolls away in his wheelchair while Junior quickly asks about their current mission. Biggie tells him to focus purely on the target. Suddenly, a massive crash grabs everyone's attention. Nathaniel questions this fire, noticing there is zero smell of smoke anywhere. You can literally feel the anticipation hit Yuna. Could Peter actually be here? Peter casually walks right over to Yuna, confirming he is firmly by her side. She stares at him in pure, total shock. He just reminds her about their meetup at the clock tower. He calmly explains that with all the hospital staff and patients running from the alarm, anyone left standing here, definitely an assassin hunting him down. Nathaniel smirks, revealing he knew they were secretly working together. He asks if Peter seriously thinks he can take on the Undertakers of Rio entirely alone. The doctor starts monologuing about his organization's dark history, describing a brutally poor village down in Rio, a place where human life is dirt cheap, the average lifespan barely 16 years. He recounts a man desperately begging for his and his child's lives right before gang members ruthlessly wiped them out. With the streets packed with bodies, it earned a brutal nickname, the City of Funerals. Only the truly strongest survive there. He explains these Undertakers of Rio control basically every illegal operation in that region, and he boasts that hundreds of their most lethal fighters are standing inside this very hospital. Nathaniel flashes a wicked smile at Peter, claiming he sees massive potential. He calls our guy a little tiger cub, one that could easily evolve into a terrifying predator under his personal mentorship. He tells Peter to drop this whole hero act for his classmate. Instead, he invites him to join their bloody ranks and unlock true power. Peter just shrugs. You are not ready for this next move. Instantly, two guys, Rafael and a B-rank fighter named Sao Paulo, charge straight at Peter. Without even moving an inch, our guy simply whips out a pen and strikes them both. Precise, brutal blows directly to their vital points. They hit the floor instantly. Yuna and everyone else watch in total shock. Nathaniel suddenly realizes Peter just flat out eliminated his men without even bothering to look at them. Now, Peter slowly turns his cold gaze toward the doctor, asking if he still views him as just a little cub. Nathaniel asks Peter if he actually knows how long it takes a person to die. He calmly listed out 1 minute and 12 seconds for a severed artery, 40 seconds if you slice a vein. For the carotid artery, exactly 12 seconds. So on average, it takes about 1 minute to end a life. With Peter facing down 100 elite assassins right now, Nathaniel genuinely wonders if the kid can actually survive for 100 minutes. The entire gang starts closing in on Peter. One thug grins, saying he has been waiting for this exact moment. Another mutters that this country is just way too peaceful. A third laughs, claiming he finally feels truly alive again. Somebody screams for the little brat to step up. Two gang members rush forward in a frenzy, but Peter drops them both into the dirt instantly. The rest just keep advancing without a single second of hesitation. One guy yells that they will never forget their fallen brothers. There's no way this little boy is taking them down. Another yells for everyone to charge at once. Yuna starts panicking. She knows Peter is in serious danger. They have him totally cornered, yet not a single one of these guys even flinches after watching their own comrades drop dead. They show zero sign of stopping. One thug taunts Peter, asking why he looks so scared. He brags that they have all grown up together since they were born. Another spits that the doctor lived a cushy life, so he could never understand their bond. They have watched people die around them every single day. Peter weaves through their vicious attacks with ridiculous ease. Nathaniel casually remarks that Peter is quite good at dodging. Being that swift is genuinely impressive, But dodging alone is not going to save him here. He loudly points out that Sungu is completely out of escape routes now. With literally dozens of lethal assassins blocking every single path, the doctor asks what his grand plan is. Peter just calmly agrees he is definitely outnumbered, but honestly, that just plays right into his hands. The gang members stare at him, totally confused about his next move. Peter simply grabs a fire hose. A massive stream of water suddenly blasts out. He asks why they look so terrified. They are just getting started. The insane water pressure completely sweeps the gang off their feet, sending them crashing hard onto the floor. Water drips from the nozzle. Peter smirks that slip and slide is probably enough for now. The thugs violently struggle to stand back up. Nathaniel admits the fire hose trick was pretty clever, but water cannot actually kill anybody. One of the soaked thugs asks if Peter really thought a little shower would be enough to stop them. Peter just glances at a nearby defibrillator. He grabs the two shock paddles and slowly rubs them together, making it absolutely clear he is just getting started. Time for his real move. He slams both paddles straight into the flooded floor. A massive electric current instantly surges through the water, violently electrocuting every single person standing there. The gang members take the full voltage. They violently collapse to the ground, dropping one by one. Water keeps steadily dripping onto the flooded floor. Nathaniel has to admit Peter really continues to impress him. He realizes the guy deliberately lured every single thug into one specific corner just to use that fire hose, and then followed up with a heavy defibrillator shock. He has to admit our boy is completely full of surprises. Nathaniel totally takes back his earlier claim. This fight will definitely not take 100 minutes. He points out Peter has already wiped out half the crew, and yet an entire hall full of enemies still remains standing. Peter figures Nathaniel expected this bloodbath to take 2 full hours, but he seriously doubts it will take anywhere near that long. Peter spots a medical chart nearby and casually snatches it. The remaining thugs wonder what he is scribbling down. Peter marks it up and tosses it their way. The confused gang members stare at the paper. It shows a basic human anatomy diagram from the front, back, left, and right profiles, covered in red crosses marking major vital points. Peter mocks them for not even recognizing a simple autopsy chart, despite calling themselves hospital staff. He casually explains that stabbing the carotid artery triggers massive, unstoppable bleeding, and that exact cause of death will soon show up on their autopsy reports. Finished speaking, he suddenly hurls his pen right at them. You can see the panic hit. They completely underestimated this guy, but it is way too late. Peter recklessly charges the remaining mob holding nothing but that pen. He rapidly strikes down one fighter after another, dropping them in brutal, rapid succession. The terrified gang members are sent flying backward, collapsing into messy piles. Watching this absolute bloodbath unfold, Yuna remembers all those wild stories about the strongest man in the world. Everyone around her always talked about him like a walking legend, but this brutal reality looks nothing like those grand, heroic myths. Right now, he just looks like a stubborn, ordinary old man who refuses to quit. He barely even resembles that mythical killer, who supposedly fought off thousands of enemies completely alone. She realizes you really cannot trust every single rumor. But if those wild rumors are true and this is the real Peter, she understands this must be exactly what those past survivors witnessed. Once the 100 fighters are down, Nathaniel openly praises Peter. He remarks that choosing him was definitely the right decision, and taking out 100 guys took our boy a mere 30 minutes. But Peter makes it extremely clear he is nowhere near finished. Nathaniel just looks confused. Peter points out one minor detail. He is still breathing. He asks if the doctor wants to step up, or if he needs to bring the fight to him. Nathaniel immediately leaps down. The heavy impact completely shatters the floor beneath his boots. A deeply sinister smile creeps across his face, with a truly dangerous gleam flashing in his eyes. He makes it obvious Peter already knows the answer. Nathaniel glares with heavy suspicion, seriously struggling to comprehend how someone this young possesses such totally insane combat skills. He briefly wonders if this kid is some foreign professional killer. He quickly drops the idea way too young. Peter counters that he has his own questions. Guys with zero confidence usually feel the need to talk the loudest. He drops a confident smile, reminding the doctor there is a remarkably thin line between actual confidence and pure arrogance. Nathaniel suddenly lunges forward with absolutely blinding speed. Peter barely manages to block the heavy strike, but the sheer force is monstrous. It launches him straight into the air. Floating midair, Peter is completely stunned by the doctor's raw power, wondering if this guy is even human. Hitting the ground and skidding backward, he admits things just got seriously bad. Watching nearby, Yuna is horrified seeing Peter thrown backward despite holding a solid guard, and she really begins to worry about the actual, terrifying limits of this doctor's monstrous power. She knows Peter pushed past his limits, wiping out those 100 killers. She is terrified he might actually die if things keep going like this. Yuna screams at the top of her lungs, "Dodge! Peter, just dodge!" Nathaniel casually scoops up two nearby corpses and taunts Peter. "Are you already wiped out?" Because the real fun hasn't even started yet. He launches the dead weight right at him, laughing that being tired is a terrible excuse for bad defense. Peter easily dodges the flying bodies and charges straight ahead. But the doctor just swats him away with one hand, sending our guy absolutely flying into a wall. Peter is seriously rattled. He has never seen this kind of raw physical power, and he desperately wonders about the crazy doctor's secret. Tears are literally pouring down Yuna's face now. She screams his name, entirely convinced she is about to watch her friend get murdered. He smashes Peter into a nearby elevator and slams the button. Down they plunge. Yuna watches them drop, terrified of how deep that shaft actually goes. Going down, Nathaniel casually explains his evil plan. Peter is way too fast, so this tiny metal box guarantees zero chance of running away. The doors open into a massive underground lab, packed with giant glass tubes holding literal human specimens. Nathaniel starts trash-talking again. Where did all that fire go? He sighs, acting super disappointed that Peter is turning out to be so boring. Way up above ground, Yuna is still frantically shouting his name, desperately trying to find a way down. Back down in the creepy lab, the doctor demands answers. Who exactly is Peter, and why did he crash this party instead of the expected guest? Peter is just lying there, totally motionless. Nathaniel smugly assumes he is already dead, bragging that this always happens when he takes a fight seriously. But then he gets weirdly angry, throwing a tantrum because Peter dodged his earlier strikes. But get this, Peter casually stands right back up and actually apologizes for being so incredibly rude. He deadpan explains that he only took a quick nap because the doctor was putting him to sleep. Nathaniel looks absolutely dumbfounded. Peter just smirks, telling him to try again and promising to throw some real punches this time. The fight kicks off again, and Peter finally feels the actual danger as he locks eyes on the doctor's incoming giant fist. Meanwhile, over in a secure control room, Jiwon and some white-haired guy are watching the entire beatdown through security cameras. The guy is absolutely mind-blown that Peter is losing, but Jiwon, cool as a cucumber. He asks why she isn't sweating. So, she remembers a wild story about Peter from 55 years ago. Flashback time. A bunch of young martial arts students surround their instructor, who challenges them to define what true strength actually is. Everyone else gives nerdy answers like staying calm, mastering weapons, or raw muscle. Peter, he just wants a technique guaranteed to kill anybody. The teacher walks them right up to a giant boulder and tells them to smash it. The other kids immediately whine that it is literally impossible, but Peter just roasts their bad footwork. He flat out tells them, how do you expect to break solid stone if you cannot even stand properly? The quitters go home, but Peter actually stays right there, punching that exact same rock for a full month. The class comes back to make fun of his failure, but they instantly shut up. That giant boulder is utterly obliterated into a million pebbles. Watch how arrogant this guy gets. Nathaniel asks if Peter understands human limits, bragging that the strongest lifter alive could not even scratch him. He squints at our guy, genuinely wondering if Peter is even human anymore, or if he got some insane magical blessing. Peter just casually asks, hey, have you ever been hit by a car? Before Nathaniel can blink, Peter delivers a monstrous punch that launches him across the lab. Nathaniel slams right through a massive storage capsule. Up in the camera room, the white-haired guy admits that surviving a hit like that is impossible. But nope, the crazy doctor slowly drags himself back up. He smirks, telling Peter he probably cannot comprehend why he easily survived, or why Peter's own punching hand is suddenly shredded from the impact. Peter looks down at his bleeding knuckles, while Nathaniel goes on a villain rant about how he personally controls human evolution. He rips off his shirt, revealing a grossly mutated body, and Peter finally gets it, this madman turned himself into an actual freak of nature. The doctor practically flexes, bragging that this hideous form is the peak of his evolutionary science project. Nathaniel stares him down, asking why Peter looks so horrified. Honestly, Peter just thinks this guy has completely lost the plot. He stares at the bulging veins, wondering what Nathaniel injected into his own body. The doctor smiles, asking if Peter has ever heard the fancy term called anti-fragility. He brags that he is basically unkillable, so taking damage literally levels him up. When his muscles tear and heal, his entire body just gets way sturdier. Basically, he cooked up a custom drug that supercharges his healing factor, creating an insanely broken loop where taking beatings gives him massive power boosts. He asks if Peter finally grasps the math here. Marching right toward our guy, he happily announces that Peter's odds of winning have hit absolute zero. His hand clamps tight on Peter's neck. One single wrong move here means certain death. He slams Peter right into the floorboards, kicking up dust everywhere, bragging that nobody survives this grip. But then Peter's voice cuts through the dust, casually congratulating him. The giant freezes, wait, Didn't he just have this kid by the throat? Here is where it gets crazy. In just zero point 0.1 seconds, Peter used the guy's own hand to force an opening and completely escape. He stands there completely stunned. Normal humans absolutely do not have reflexes like that. Meanwhile, Peter shakes off the burning pain in his hand from that super brief contact. He remembers Nathaniel literally crushing a test subject's skull straight through a solid wall. The math is pretty simple here. If those two hands grab him, it is game over. The doctor screams at Peter to show him more power. An ability chart pops up, tracking strength, raw combat skill, willpower, intelligence, speed, and overall stamina. He admits these stats definitely belong to an A- rank killer. Honestly, they even blow past a standard A rank. But he still gloats that Peter cannot beat him. Why? Because this guy keeps evolving mid-fight. He gives Peter one last generous chance to beg for mercy like a dog. Otherwise, he promises to tear him apart piece by bloody piece. Peter raises a hand, and the doctor actually thinks the kid agrees with his insane vision. In the security room, the white-haired man watches the screens, noting that if Peter actually surrenders, they might just have to abandon him completely to avoid any blowback. He knew from day one this kid was built totally different. Peter just casually tells the doctor that playtime is officially over. They need a completely different approach right now. He tells Nathaniel his weird obsession with raw strength has totally ruined his brain. The doctor asks what the hell he is doing. And Peter deadpans that there is only one way to handle a toddler throwing a major tantrum, a good old-fashioned spanking. He smirks, totally mocking this tough guy act. They both instantly charge forward, their fists slamming together as the whole room shakes. Watching the feed, the white-haired man finally admits he has absolutely no clue what he is looking at anymore. This is nowhere near a fight between normal human beings. Trading heavy hits, the doctor realizes Peter is genuinely a monster completely unlike anyone he has. Nathaniel feels the rush of his own evolution, but something still bugs him. Peter already proved his raw strength, yet he is hiding something way beyond mere stats. Where does this kid get the nerve to fight without hesitation? Finally, the monster decides resistance is completely pointless. He roars out a threat to rip Peter apart. He promises to tear out every single bone and muscle. The white-haired guy screams, and Juan cries out in pure desperation. They know a killing blow is coming, but amidst the chaos, Peter simply remembers the doctor's old logic. Muscle damage triggers massive recovery. Nathaniel literally weaponized that vicious cycle with his special drug. Watch closely here. Peter actually wanted this all along, waiting for the guy to hit his absolute peak. Then, something feels wrong. Peter breaks it down. Those oversized muscles expanded way too much, and now they are actively crushing Nathaniel's own bones and nerves. The result? Total paralysis. The massive monster tries to force a movement but stays completely frozen. He was just too hyped on the adrenaline of battle to notice his own body turning to stone. How did this kid diagnose a complex artificial evolution flaw in just minutes? His massive fist literally just hangs there in midair. Game over? Peter tells him, then delivers a devastatingly clean kick that sends the giant crashing straight backward. Nathaniel flashes back to the countless lives he sacrificed for this perfect human form. Dying to some random boy? Absolutely out of the question. So he totally snaps and goes for his last resort. The hidden capsule will literally melt his muscles, but it forces a shift into the ultimate living organism. Swallowing it down, he warns Peter to watch this final stage and that they will both drop dead in 3 minutes. The two clash violently, and Nathaniel's mind races. Even punching at absolute max capacity, Peter dodges with insane ease. It honestly feels like fighting an entire army instead of one guy. Then the missing piece clicks. The wall between them is pure experience. He cannot fathom how a kid could have such an overwhelming combat history. Peter feels exactly like that one godlike man he spent his whole life trying to surpass. This is where it gets crazy. A truly chilling thought strikes the monster. Is this kid actually Apostle Peter? Suddenly, Nathaniel's memories drift way back to the year 2002, right inside the massive hall of the Glory Club. Fancy portraits line the walls while doctors gather for their solemn oath. They swear to serve all of mankind, keeping their medical oath and pride intact even if it gets them hurt. One bystander just finds the whole thing mind-blowing, while another guy totally doubts that is even possible. A woman chimes in. These are the actual representatives. At the Divine Honor Medical University entrance ceremony, we spot a young Nathaniel. Back then, he went by his real name, Neon Ill. Getting into med school at 13 makes him a genius, but the kid feels completely miserable. Fast forward to August 1994. Inside the pediatric ward, excited kids swarm a guy dressed up like Santa Claus, begging for their presents. Neon just lies there in bed, completely hooked up to medical drips. Someone mentions he deserves a gift too, but the sick kid is having a full existential crisis. He genuinely believes God chose to make him frail, and he wonders why he was born this weak. An evolution documentary plays on the TV showing a creature shedding its old shell to grow stronger. Watching this, the boy seriously wonders if God is giving him a sign to do exactly that, since humans cannot naturally evolve like animals. He decides he will be the first one to pull off that impossible feat. Jump to the year 2012. A patient with a gunshot wound and full cardiac arrest is rushed right into the hospital. Junior doctors and nurses prep him for emergency heart surgery, nervously whispering about this guy being a known serial killer. One junior doctor asks why they are even saving a monster. The nurse simply replies, treating someone like this is exactly what makes their surgeons so incredible. The lead surgeon today is Neon. Mid-surgery, the lead doctor thinks the whole moral debate is ridiculous. To him, fixing bodies is just work, and yet his own heart is pounding faster than it ever has. He realizes this killer has an unbelievably durable body. Total fascination takes over. He desperately wants to know what makes this man so physically superior. He fights the sick urge to explore that raw power, reminding himself of his oath to preserve human life. He tries convincing himself his own life is a blessing, but a much darker, poorly made humans are just dragging down evolution, and he needs to take the lead. It is finally time for him to shed his own skin. He is absolutely sick of being weak. He has to know what holding that kind of strength actually feels like. Before he can stop himself, he looks down. He cracked the patient's brain wide open, blood pooling across the floor. Stripped of everything, Nathaniel runs away to hide in a tiny South American city. There are enough bodies here to fund his twisted research forever. He proves his wild theories through constant observation, straight up murdering strong fighters and using their deaths to fuel his own physical growth. He modifies his own body from scratch, no father's DNA, no mother's womb needed. In his mind, he just became the ultimate evolution of mankind. In the present, Peter violently throws Nathaniel through a wall. The villain hits the ground, realizing his spine is completely shattered and his muscles are torn apart. Peter calmly warns him moving will only make you die faster. Nathaniel stares up, asking our protagonist how this is even possible. He spent 30 solid years dedicating every single day to becoming physically unstoppable. Peter just looks down at him some things you can never copy. He respects the villain's stubbornness. But Peter drops a reality check. He invested 65 years of hard work. This revelation absolutely floors the doctor. He finally understands how little he actually knows, but smiles realizing he is lucky to have met Peter right before his death. Over at Yongwang Hospital, the battle ends. Crews step in to clear away the bodies of the Brazilian killers. Every piece of information regarding those blooded killers gets wiped off the hospital system. Riding in the car, the Dako brothers chat with Mr. Lee, eagerly asking if it is finally time for them to hit C rank. Their mentor instantly shoots that down. He tells them it is never that easy and orders them to take off those ridiculous fake casts. The siblings just laugh, claiming they were doing some intense method acting. Biggie scoffs, "You guys should have seen them fighting." Yuna claps back with sarcasm when asked to praise their bravery, though she quickly adds that this is just her weird way of showing appreciation. You can feel the mood shift. Peter watches Yuna, looking strangely miserable despite winning. She remembers Nathaniel's promise he could cure her little brother Eugene using a 4.5 billion won blood serum. Peter quietly asks if she is thinking about her brother. Yuna immediately lies, saying she is only stressed out about missing her school lunch. Plus, she points out the serum is gone anyway. That crazy scientist completely destroyed it. Peter gently tells her she will definitely find another way to save Eugene, earning a soft thank you. The car finally pulls up near a quiet Korean playground. As they hop out, Peter points to a tied-up case left in the back seat. Yuna realizes it is not hers and guesses the coach probably forgot it. She opens the case. Inside is high-grade laboratory storage equipment holding formulas and tubes. Completely shocked, she asks Peter how he even knows her brother's name. Our boy just smiles, explaining that the dead scientist never actually destroyed those serums. Yuna grips the case tight and bursts into tears. Meanwhile, back at the ruined hospital, a mysterious man stands over a massive floor crater with his assistant. The subordinate reports and all patients are safely evacuated, and the media still has zero clue this incident even happened. The leader stares at the damage, questioning if these traces were truly made by humans. He asks if Peter is responsible. The follower notes the protagonist appears and disappears like a ghost. Just then, two other unknown men step right into view. One of them strikes the aide down with his sword for using that word. He calls the fallen doctor's death completely disgraceful. Why? Because he died before getting any real recognition. Now this sword ghost decides Peter desperately needs a brutal lesson. Mr. Lee gathers Peter, Yuna, and the Dako brothers. Their volunteer service is officially starting. Biggie complains they literally just finished their last mission, and they are already getting another one. Junior brags about the struggles of being so popular. He asks if this task involves dark assassination or espionage. Yuna sighs, wishing the month would end. Mr. Lee honestly has no clue why they got this specific assignment, but he explains the volunteer club exists for this exact reason, so they better try their best. Arriving at UIL's school, Biggie looks totally confused. Junior immediately starts questioning what kind of weird place this is. Yuna points out they are here to volunteer like the coach ordered. Kids swarm the brothers, climbing all over them. The siblings wonder if they actually have to do manual labor. When a local asks Yuna about the pair, she dismisses them as a bunch of total boneheads. She then warns the guys not to get too disappointed, because this grunt work is required for official club recognition. The Dako brothers literally drop down and flail around, complaining they did not come to glory for menial tasks. They stubbornly refuse to do this pity work, questioning why elite superstars are forced into it. A pretty teacher named Yejin approaches. Spotting her, the siblings scramble right up and frantically start pulling weeds. They loudly boast about being the best volunteers, urging her to leave the tough work to them. But Yejin quickly stops them. They are ripping up fresh flowers. Yuna asks if there is literally no cure for their buffoonery. Peter calmly says there is not. Frustrated, Yuna hates that the coach sent them over 300 meters away for this nonsense. Peter gently reminds them that they are here to volunteer and must avoid causing trouble or revealing their identities. As Peter walks off, Yuna notices he looks unusually downcast today. Meanwhile, the brothers smooth talk Yejin, asking if she is a student. Once she answers, Biggie smirks, telling her not to develop feelings since they are just students. Yuna sighs again, remarking that the clowns have returned to their usual behavior. A security guard arrives, welcoming the volunteers to this lonely rural school. He and Yejin share a quick inside joke. Peter and Yuna just look on with extremely confused expressions. Yuna notes the grounds are already perfectly green, asking if there is even more work left. The guard leads them around back, calling the place a pigsty. But pay attention here, Yuna realizes something feels totally wrong. Why come this far? Two shady neighborhood thugs suddenly arrive and loudly demand rent money from the old security guard. The man explains the school earns barely anything, unable to afford heating. The criminals sarcastically laugh that everyone is struggling right now, so the desperate guard offers them a cloth-covered basket. One thug opens it to find just homegrown potatoes. He gets absolutely enraged. He violently shoves the guard, scattering the potatoes everywhere. He cruelly mocks them for offering such a completely worthless gift. Yejin bravely tries to intervene, but the attackers claim the school is violating the contract. As Peter steps toward the group, Yuna warns him not to get involved. Yejin tells the thugs they live on government benefits, but one creep grabs her. He suggests she could easily earn money in other ways with her looks. Biggie immediately steps in, declaring men should protect women, not hit them. The massive thug instantly punches his face. Yejin begs them to stop, but Biggie, blood pouring from his nose, arrogantly claims it just felt like a tiny mosquito bite. A wild fight breaks out. Soon, both brothers are shown brutally beaten on stretchers. Yejin apologizes, but Junior tells her to worry about those thugs instead. The guard explains these violent men constantly harass locals for money. Later on, Yejin thanks the group for cleaning the school up and invites them all to stay for the night. Peter approaches Biggie to check his injuries, noting he actually matured. He remarks that real strength is knowing exactly when to hold back, a rare quality he saw in him today. Biggie insists men should never watch a woman cry. When Yejin tries speaking up, Junior totally dismisses her, saying they are busy talking to Peter. That night, Yuna sits on a swing thinking about the serum in her luggage. Peter approaches, she jumps in shock, wondering why he appears from nowhere, but he just ignores the question. Yuna decides to bring up the serum, but Peter suddenly thanks her for protecting him at the park over the hospital. He knows she was terrified, but she showed real courage. Yuna brushes off the sweet praise. She asks if he is related to the other Peter, pointing out his incredible strength. She expresses frustration that someone this overpowered is ranked as a mere D-rank killer. Peter simply promises to explain everything when the time is right. Yuna tries to thank him, but they just start bickering because Peter keeps acting completely deaf. She finally screams out her gratitude, only for Peter to tell her to chill out, which instantly makes her accuse him of baiting her. Peter watches them, realizing the kids are actually growing up, and decides it is time to move on. He heads to the security office to chat with the guard. Peter asks if he can lend a hand, but the old guy cuts him off. The guard drops the act. He has lived around the stench of blood for decades, and he knows our guy is no regular student. The man claims Peter absolutely reeks of bloodshed. In response, Peter admits volunteering was his only way onto the grounds without blowing his cover. He is here strictly to hunt down Apostle Simon. Hearing this, the guard slowly pulls off his gloves. And right there, Peter recognizes him as the Spiral Swordmaster Glory's absolute greatest blade. Simon praises our boy for doing his homework, but he casually makes a dark promise Peter will not leave this campus alive. Normally, Swinging a sword leaves a tiny gap in a fighter's guard, the perfect window for a brutal counterattack. But Simon is different. He fights like a mind reader, leaving absolutely zero room for any kind of payback strike. Raw strength and crazy speed just bounce right off his defense. With one clean swing, he easily slices through all of Peter's canes. In a flash, the swordmaster traps Peter entirely, totally locking down his movement behind a solid wall of steel blades. And here is where it gets so good. Peter fires back, wanting to test if the guy actually earns his title, the Spiral Swordmaster, Apostle Simon. The Apostle smirks. Peter should feel pretty proud, since he is one of only 2 people to ever survive 10 moves against him. Simon pushes forward again, slashing away the last of the canes, but Peter ducks hard to dodge the fatal hit. Mid-fight, the swordsman points out a hard truth. Nobody or try their natural habits, their scent, their walk, their voice, or their breath. At first, doubtful, but this clash proved it. The apostle drops to one knee, bowing respectfully, and calls Peter his great brother. Peter just stands there in silence while the swordsman confesses he was absolutely convinced his brother was dead. He admits how deeply he missed him, staring in awe because our boy looks like he completely reverted to his teenage years. They take a seat on a massive rock. Peter rubs his head, admitting he can barely process the whole crazy situation himself. The apostle jokingly asks if this means Peter can finally head back to that old playground where he embarrassingly slipped. Our protagonist groans and begs him to drop the humiliating topic. Simon looks him over. He notes Peter looks way healthier now than in his past life, especially pointing out his thick, dark hair. Peter shrugs, saying he just woke up looking like this. Then he sighs in relief, glad he guessed the fighter's identity right. He praises the apostle's insane technique, confessing he really thought he was dead during that spar. But the swordsman swears he would never hurt Peter because he actually recognized him right away. Peter quickly points out that the guy still held a razor-sharp blade directly against his throat. The apostle laughs, saying Peter hasn't changed one bit over the years. He jokes his own blade has gotten pretty dusty from constant use and credits every ounce of his skill straight to Peter's old teachings. Then, the swordsman asks how he tracked him to this rural town. Peter simply asks if he heard about the crazy commotion involving Nathaniel over at Yongwang Hospital. Simon nods, and his eyes go wide. He realizes Peter actually pulled that off, openly praising his insane strength and guts. When asked why he did it, Peter bluntly reveals his real plan, completely eradicating the Glory organization. Now genuinely worried, the apostle warns that a mission like that is way too dangerous, even for Peter. He immediately offers to help, vowing to slice their enemies apart. But the protagonist shuts it down, telling him to stay behind and focus on guarding the school grounds. Simon strongly protests. He argues his place is by Peter's side, asking if he really wants to abandon all those quiet years in hiding. This part hits hard. The swordsman thinks back to his forced exile, bitterly regretting that Peter stopped him from killing their enemy back then. Peter remembers the past 60 years ago, back when Father Gabriel originally founded the orphanage. 12 kids, Peter included, were chosen and forced to survive on dirt. They endured brutal training that turned them all into savage beasts. Those survivors became the 12 apostles' top secret agents who ended up shaping the world right alongside Glory. Everything changed the day Father Gabriel brought home an adopted son. The boy's true identity remained a complete mystery. Then it happened. That boy seized the crown. When an enraged apostle wanted to kill him, Peter blocked the hit, insisting it just wasn't their time yet. Now, Peter explains that under this new leader, Glory twisted into a completely corrupt house of bloodshed. We see this tyrant on screen, a massive guy hiding behind a huge mask, rocking a queen tattoo right across his back. Snapping back to the present, the apostle stands firm. He lacked power back then, but today he commands the full strength of his youth. He tells Peter to watch from the sidelines as he personally destroys their kingdom and the very man responsible. Simon takes off. The following morning at Wheel's school, the Doko brothers watch Peter getting swarmed by the kids. They get pretty annoyed that the kids favor Peter, considering the brothers did all the hard work. Yejin admits she was worried about those thugs coming back, but the brothers promise her they are gone. They explain how they forced those punks to apologize, warning them that coming back meant facing a seriously skilled killer. Those guys were completely terrified, promising to leave for good and actually become decent members of society. The brothers tell Yejin not to stress over their harsh methods as they get ready to leave. Down by the shore, Simon and Yejin thank them for everything. The brothers reply with genuine gratitude for their warm hospitality. The apostle says a fond goodbye, adding that the school will hold on to these memories. Yejin even invites them to visit yearly, leaving the brothers totally shocked by her kindness. Right before heading off, Simon tells Peter to call him if he ever needs backup. Peter thanks the man, telling him to stay safe out there. Heavy rain starts pouring down with a loud crack of thunder. Inside the security room, the guard notices way too many uninvited guests showing up lately. A mysterious crew arrives on the scene, including the exact same woman who attacked the hospital. She reveals herself as the Sword Phantom and violently draws her blade. Simon walks up, noting they definitely are not here for local volunteer work. She recognizes him as the fake Simon taken in by Glory, proudly restating her title as the infamous Sword Phantom, the absolute best swordsman in Japan. Her large companion respects his past reputation, but when asked if they want his legendary title, the woman just laughs it off. She casually mentions they were only hired for a massive pile of cash. Simon actually feels bad they will not get paid today. He corrects their assumption about him just being the absolute best in Korea, proudly declaring himself the true spiral swordmaster. Her companion chuckles, saying the trip was worth it. Simon invites them to step up, making it clear that one side is leaving in a body bag. Total chaos erupts between Simon and the Sword Phantom. Their blades clash over and over. The Phantom remarks that despite all the crazy hype surrounding the spiral swordmaster, he is honestly not that impressive. She wonders out loud if old age dulled his edge. Simon fires back with heavy sarcasm, openly admitting that both he and his blade have gotten pretty rusty. But he quickly points out that if he were at his peak, she would already be dead. She ignores the threat, spritzes herself with some perfume, and warns the old man to drop his massive arrogance. Simon fully acknowledges her extraordinary technique. Still, his real concern keeps shifting toward that giant man standing right behind her. He realizes quickly if he has to fight both of these monsters at once, he desperately needs more room. As they push forward, he warns the Phantom to stop trashing the school property, threatening serious payback. She easily brushes off his concern, mentioning she actually intended to hunt him down anyway since he is dying today. She swings her blade with blinding speed, completely shattering a nearby window and forcing the fight straight out into a bamboo forest. The Phantom angrily curses the old man for being so sneaky while he pulls back. Her large companion worries about her fighting in this pouring rain, but she tells him to relax. Simon dashes through the torrential downpour, keeping his eyes peeled for his dangerous opponent. He notices her weapon is not a standard sword, but a jagged saw meant to completely tear flesh apart. She might not slash very often, but every single hit digs painfully deep. More importantly, Simon feels something is totally off here. This weird pair is definitely hiding a dark secret. They finally reach the edge of a steep cliff. The Phantom smirks, remarking that Simon just loves cheap drama. She calls this the absolute perfect spot for a tragic, heroic death. He casually asks if she knows why people actually call him the Spiral Swordmaster. She snaps back that she genuinely does not care. She urges him to wrap this up fast because she has places to be. Her companion warns her to stand way back, since things are about to get real dangerous. Pay close attention here. Simon completely agrees, skipping the explanation to just show them his raw power instead. He triggers his spiral sword mastery. Instantly, the pouring rain, the crashing waves, and the very air around him just freeze completely. Only the spiral remains in motion. The giant companion watches in pure shock while the Phantom wonders what is even happening. Simon unleashes an absolute flurry of blinding strikes straight toward her neck, waist, legs, and arms. Her companion quickly realizes Simon's slashes are perfectly connecting to form one single continuous path. He finally acknowledges that this overwhelming power is exactly why the entire world once feared his blade. Simon halts, thanking the Phantom for giving him a truly real match, admitting she really is the single best swordsman in Japan. He then slowly shifts his cold attention right to the large man, letting him know he is up next. The Phantom lies completely defeated in the mud, while her giant companion steps forward. He openly compliments the former Imperial swordsman on his godlike skill, noting he would have been a formidable threat if he never retired. But he confidently declares that it is just too late now. Simon demands to know what that means, claiming the big guy is the one going down. But then, suddenly, Simon spots a deep, bleeding gash across his stomach. He wonders how it even happened, since that should be physically impossible. The large companion simply mocks him, asking if he actually thought he won. Simon stares closely at the Phantom, suddenly feeling like she is a literal ghost, and he watches in total confusion as her body literally distorts before slowly standing back up. It hits him that perfume triggered a wild hallucination. He claims he already knows every single trick out there. He challenges them to try something a lot harder. His solution is simple. If he is seeing a vision, he just needs to stop looking. He has used his technique so much that illusions mean absolutely nothing now. The companion rushes towards Simon, totally terrified that the old master is completely defenseless. Simon shuts his eyes tight and swings his blade through the air, commanding the spirit to back off. The Phantom mocks the old man, calling him washed up. She proudly explains her title the Sword Phantom because she is a spirit wielding a truly wild blade. Meanwhile, at Yongwang School, the Dako brothers hang out in a classroom with Yuna and Peter. Biggie dramatically asks if love is always this painful. He shows everyone that Miss Yejin stopped replying to his texts. Yuna just finds it super creepy and flat out says she does not blame the woman. But Biggie stubbornly insists she is an angel who used to reply to every single person. He notes she went silent after sending a weird photo yesterday showing a woman holding a sword next to a guy built exactly like a bear. Biggie asks Yuna for advice on women, but accidentally insults her instead. Instantly annoyed, Yuna grabs both brothers by their collars. Biggie immediately struggles for air. Right then, Peter decides to call Ji-won to check her schedule. Peter and Ji-won meet by the water with a white-haired guy. She immediately starts complaining about the freezing cold and that harsh saltwater smell. Our boy sets a photo box on the ground, and his dog instantly freaks out. Ji-won watches, completely surprised by the animal acting up. Peter flashes back to talking with Simon, heavily regretting not keeping the master close. Crack the box open and find Simon's severed arm inside. A simple note reads, "Dear Peter." Our protagonist just stands there, totally shell-shocked. Check this out. Someone is watching them through a telescope from far away. A voice over the phone asks if the target got their sick gift. The sniper confirms it. The caller asks if it is Peter down there, and the observer spots him next to the white-haired man, a girl, and a dog. But mid-sentence, Peter suddenly appears right behind the spy and snatches the phone. The caller turns out to be the Sword Phantom herself. Peter asks if she is the newest recruit for Glory, sarcastically adding that he feels pretty flattered. The spy tries to attack, but Peter just grabs his hand and twists hard until bone cracks. Pinning the guy down, our boy warns the Sword Phantom she better keep Simon alive. He makes it crystal clear Simon is dead. Her own ending will be incredibly slow and painful. Later, Peter stands on a sleek yacht, checking in with Ji-won over a call. Ji-won asks if he is going to be okay, and he confidently brushes it off. She keeps pushing for details about exactly where he is heading, asking if he is just going home. Instead, Peter just stares at a photograph of a massive yacht that came inside that morbid box. Ji-won warns him how dangerous this is. She points out that every normal vessel out there has strict registration and visible IDs. But one specific ship keeps all its data completely erased. She identifies this mystery boat as the Ghost Cruise. She warns Peter that the exact people who kidnapped Apostle Simon are hiding on that boat, hiding behind a total wall of secrecy. Peter casually replies that he knows exactly where they got it. He explains the underworld setup. While Korea has Glory, Japan runs a similar killer syndicate active since the ancient Kamakura shogunate era. They are known as the Kutoro. He brings up their most infamous stunt, the missing case. Just two of their sword masters crashed a banquet and slaughtered 200 members of the Yamato Gumi Yakuza gang. Ji-won knows about the incident, but she questions why everyone called it a missing case when it was an obvious bloodbath. Peter drops a chilling fact: the sweep was so efficient that they did not leave a single body behind. Even with Japanese police issuing massive warrants, those killers vanished like absolute ghosts, only to pop back up now in Korea. He identifies their female leader as the new Simon of Glory. Ji-won gets seriously worried, knowing Peter is just volunteering to hunt a lethal swordmaster, and this woman used to be in Simon's crew. Ji-won warns him that out on the open ocean, nobody is ever going to find his body if he loses. She quickly offers to back him up, but Peter brushes the danger off, vowing to make them pay a heavy price. Nobody hurts his comrade and gets away with it. Besides, he casually mentions he is not doing this alone. Before he can explain, the Dako brothers ruin the moment by yelling right behind him. They start loudly complaining, knowing Peter would try hogging the spotlight. They grumble about having to wear cheap security guard disguises. Peter reminds them he explicitly said to stay home, but they just had to tag along. Biggie dramatically adds that a true killer treats death like a badge of honor. Right on cue, Chairman Eun-young Choi of the massive Daehak group shows up, greeting Peter and asking how the yacht feels. Peter politely suggests the chairman step inside away from the cold. Naturally, the Dako brothers use this chance to bother the boss about their ugly outfits. They complain they didn't join the Glory Club just to play janitor for board members. As the crew watches, he breaks it down: the Ghost Cruise is a black market where you can buy literally anything: drugs, weapons, rare art, even living people. And cash alone won't get you a ticket onto this exclusive ship. Peter nods his thanks. The chairman points ahead as the massive cruise finally looms into view. It is payback time. Peter readies himself to make the Sword Phantom answer for every single crime. On board, things are already tense. A guest from the Doosan group screams at a waitress, demanding the boss right now. The Sword Phantom steps up. She coldly warns the angry guy back off her staff. She casually admits people call her a monster. And yeah, being an A-rank apostle known as the Sword Phantom definitely backs up that dark reputation. The Doosan president fires back, threatening to completely ruin her with his corporate influence. She just smirks and invites him to her private room, dropping a heavy hint about giving him an unforgettable time. He laughs in her face. She just touches him, and he instantly collapses in total shock. Unbothered, She orders her guard to toss the trash into the ocean. Now, her focus shifts to Peter. Since he got her gift, she knows he will show up. Honestly, she's incredibly eager to kill him and cash out that massive bounty. Meanwhile, the Dacko brothers are wandering around the club deck. They are completely blown away by the insane luxury and filthy rich guests. They decide to fully commit to their security guard disguise. They start cleaning so intensely that a wealthy VIP actually takes notice. The guy casually tips them 1,000,001 for the hustle. The brothers lose their minds, suddenly realizing this ship is a goldmine for quick cash. But that hype dies fast. The Sword Phantom steps out onto a high balcony to address the massive crowd below. Peter locks eyes on her. It hits him instantly. This is the exact woman from the note, the brand new Simon of Glory. The auction kicks off with the Potter. It is a compact biochemical bomb the Soviet Union abandoned because it was just way too dangerous. You have to wonder the same thing here. How did this frail woman completely crush a powerhouse like Simon? It makes absolutely zero sense. The crowd whispers about the weapon. Then, an old man named Viktor Igora, a heavy-hitting Russian arms dealer, suddenly screams out in pure rage. He accuses the Sword Phantom of stealing his property, commanding his two massive bodyguards to go and grab her immediately. The huge guards charge forward, but her quiet companion blocks the way. They completely ignore the guy and just try shoving past him. Big mistake. In a flash, both giants hit the floor. Their bodies shake wildly, literally melting away from some terrifying invisible force. The guests completely panic, but the Sword Phantom just smiles and politely apologizes for the mess. She casually announces the Potter bidding will kick off at $20 billion tomorrow night. She teases a second mind-blowing mystery item for tomorrow too. The hype crowd starts clearing out, and Peter quietly readies to make his exit. Her companion asks if Peter is actually here yet. She just grins. They will find out for sure tomorrow. Downstairs, Chairman Choi admits he is starving, so Peter tags along for a meal. But he sternly warns the old man to stay alert. He calls the Sword Phantom the absolute most diabolical person he has ever crossed paths with. Suddenly, she walks right up to their table. She immediately targets the chairman, mocking him for dodging her past invites. She grabs his tie, aggressively inviting him to dinner. The terrified chairman tries backing down, so Peter bravely steps up to take his spot. Slightly surprised, she sprays a mist of perfume and accepts his date offer instead. She smirks, telling Peter to brace for a really rough night. She moves in bizarrely close, lightly tapping his chest. Then she takes a slow, deliberate second to fix her own tie right in front of him. That intoxicating perfume hits Peter like a truck. Suddenly, he starts realizing exactly how she controls people's minds. Every man is the same. At least, that is what she deeply believes. Watch how she operates. Her scent is basically a cheat code, leaving guys completely spellbound and totally blind to the deadly trap she sets. Right on cue, the Dacko brothers pop up from behind them. They proudly announce themselves as her brand new training crew. Peter stands silently in the background. He's incredibly confused and bothered by these two guys randomly showing up. Flexing hard, Biggie and Junior loudly brag that they are ready to violently kill or spotlessly clean whatever she wants. They excitedly beg for their first order. Then, a totally ridiculous argument breaks out between them. One literally shoves the other away, fiercely claiming the master obviously likes him way better. Peter watches this whole circus, completely stunned by how absurd things just got. The Sword Phantom turns back, gently pats his cheek, and whispers that he got pretty lucky before turning away. Standing there alone, Peter replays the weird encounter, fighting to figure out how he almost completely lost control of his brain just now. While questioning her insane mind control tricks, a totally different, chilling thought pops into his head. Meanwhile, the hyped Dacko brothers promise Peter they will keep the place perfectly spotless. They even joke about scrubbing his feet if he wants. They keep chatting about that sweet $1,000 tip Sword Phantom promised for keeping the place spotless. They start scrubbing, but Peter keeps dwelling on his blown cover. Elsewhere, Sword Phantom chills in the bath. Her partner stands facing away behind a massive pillar. She asks if the thick steam makes him curious. He asks what she actually means. She points out a crazy fact: some guy in his 70s just slaughtered 100 peak-level killers. She has no idea how he pulled that off. Her partner asks if she is sure that was Peter. She quickly shuts him down. He argues the ship is packed with high-tech radar. There is no way an old man sneaked aboard, which makes him wonder if someone is just wearing Peter's face. Sword Phantom angrily splashes the bathwater. If some fake is using Peter's name to mess with their operation, she swears she will drag the truth out. He asks how she plans to find them. She just smirks. They have plenty of resources ready. Honestly, she does not care if the target is a guy or a girl. She just really wants to see their face. Her partner thinks she is catching feelings for some random enemy, but she brushes that right off. Moving through the giant cruise ship, Peter thinks back to an old chat with Simon. Simon had confessed Peter was his only real family left. He swore he would happily take the hit if it meant keeping his brother alive. Peter shoved that idea aside. He told his buddy to stay healthy so they could finally make good on that promise from years ago. Simon was actually shocked he still remembered. They shared a quiet laugh over his hidden smoking habit. Right now, Peter knows Simon is truly his family. He will slaughter as many people as it takes if it brings him straight to his friend. With everyone completely distracted by that massive ballroom auction, this is his one perfect window to track Simon down. He parks his trolley, but two guys step up, looking incredibly suspicious of an Asian waiter working the ship. They try checking the cart and immediately sense trouble. They figure this waiter must be the exact guy the shipmaster is hunting. Realizing these guys are pirates, Peter moves fast. He slams one dude into the trolley and charges forward. He tears through the kitchen, the engine room, absolutely every corner of the boat. Still, zero sign of Simon. It finally hits him. There is only one spot left to look. The very next day, the auction kicks off. Sword Phantom shows off item number 1. It is a 1780 Monet Martin masterpiece, originally a lost wedding gift for Princess Augusta. Bids fly fast. Soon she declares Signor Ferrari the winner for $1.35 million. Then she redirects all attention to the grand finale. Guards roll a massive, heavily reinforced safe right into the room. Guests start whispering crazy theories. Sword Phantom just laughs, completely dismissing boring stuff like chemical weapons or basic jewelry. She claims heaven itself valued this prize above any painting. The door swings open, revealing the former apostle, Simon. One hand is completely gone, his body wrapped in heavy chains. The crowd freezes in total horror seeing the legendary Spiral Swordmaster. People start muttering about auctioning a half-dead corpse, but Sword Phantom just stares out at the crowd. It is a silent challenge for Peter to step up. She absolutely knows blind rage will drag him out into the open. Scanning the room, Sword Phantom announces the main event has arrived. Her partner quietly asks if she finally spotted Peter. She answers yes, but also no. She just knows in her bones that he is sitting right there among them. Get this, she can physically feel a sharp, vicious hostility locked onto her like a literal blade to the throat. She doubts herself for a split second, then completely shrugs it off. It really does not matter anyway. Back to the auction. She loudly kicks off the bidding for Apostle Simon at a steep $10 million. She warns the entire room if nobody bids on the Swordmaster, he dies right here and now. But anyone crazy enough to bid better haul him away before he bleeds out. Deep down, she figures Peter is actually dead. Peter sits quietly, forehead pulsing with tension. He realizes she is using Simon as bait. He definitely lacks the cash to play, and even if he did, placing a bid would instantly blow his cover anyway. Trapped by a room full of staring eyes, he frantically scrambles for some insane way to save his friend. Sword Phantom pats Simon on the head. She mocks the guy once Glory's greatest apostle, literally worth more than a nuclear weapon, now just a pathetic lump of ruined flesh. Yanking his head up, she ruthlessly taunts him. Must sting knowing his closest comrade completely abandoned him to die. Nobody raises a paddle. She sarcastically asks if they hate damaged goods, then announces she is just going to dispose of She starts the countdown. But just before she hits 0, Chairman Choi of the DHA group drops a massive $20 million in cold hard cash. Sword Phantom immediately gets suspicious. She cannot figure out why this guy, the supposed right-hand man to the Glory boss, is randomly interfering here. With absolutely no higher offers, she accepts the bid and congratulates him. Privately, though, she absolutely knows he is hiding something. Later on, Peter and Chairman Choi stand beside arresting Simon. The elder asks if this is the guy Peter wanted. He confirms it, but worries that flashy bid just put a huge target on Choi. Choi brushes off the guilt. His long history with Glory makes the massive purchase look completely normal anyway. Plus, buying Simon was the only real way to dodge the trap from Sword Phantom. Peter realizes they are in a tight spot. Saving his brother kept him alive. Sure, but it basically proves Sword Phantom right. Choi notes that staying on this ship is basically a death wish now. Peter agrees there was never a safe exit strategy anyway. The old man asks for a real plan, and Peter reveals he is holding one hidden Joker card. Get this. Peter finds the Daco brothers roaming the corridor, completely decked out in expensive clothes and sunglasses. He asks what on earth happened. They explain that assassinations just do not pay the bills anymore and tell him to join their get-rich-quick scheme. Peter reminds them they literally came here to become legendary assassins. They sheepishly admit the luxury lifestyle totally distracted them. They brag about cleaning floors surrounded by designer brands, fully aware that this janitor gig will never make them actual legends. Peter cuts the joke something incredibly dangerous is going down, and only they can stop it. Since they scrubbed every single corner of this ship, he officially assigns them a special A-rank mission. Looking down at Simon, Peter flashes back to them sitting by a playground, watching regular kids play football. The prisoner just wished to be a normal student, wearing a basic uniform and eating a lunch packed by his own mother. Peter tells him to stop talking nonsense. Orphans like them could never actually afford to attend a normal school. Simon gives a sad smile. He knows a killer cannot have dreams, so he asks Peter to just forget it. But Peter suggests building their own school for homeless kids instead, promising to lend his brother all his textbooks for absolutely free. Simon refuses the handout. He wants to buy his own books. Snapping back to reality, Peter gently shakes the swordmaster. He begs his brother to wake up, bringing up that old promise to attend school together. Chairman Choi quietly overhears this from outside. Meanwhile, a barefoot sword phantom is throwing a tantrum because Choi ruined her trap. Her companion hints that the boss truly runs this ship, but she instantly shoots that idea down. Calling herself the real master, she orders her goons to surround the room and execute both Simon and the chairman. Killing them should force Peter out. Suddenly, a knock hits the door. Choi panics about who it is, but Peter calmly claims it is just room service and goes to answer. He returns holding nothing but tea, casually explaining he sent the food back because the steak arrived way too cold. Choi jokes that he must have really upset the young lady. Peter just tells him to drink the chamomile tea and relax. Promising to finish this before the tea gets cold, Peter steps out right into the hallway. He complains about the terrible hospitality, noting the tea was served at 75 degrees Celsius instead of a perfect 60. Heavily armed men instantly surround him. One mocks Peter for wielding two tiny paper shakers as weapons, demanding he hand over the chairman. Now watch this guy work. Peter calmly says they misunderstand the situation and dares them to attack, promising these shakers are incredibly vicious. A thug laughs in his face. He mocks Peter, asking if a simple bodyguard honestly believes he can solo 10 elite marksmen. Another guy praises his insane guts, while the rest of the gunmen quietly study Peter, totally confused because absolutely no one is backing him up. They really wonder what his master plan is when his only weapons are two paper shakers. They convince themselves he is totally bluffing. It has to be a cheap psychological trick to scare them, something they have seen a million times. But even so, something feels dangerously different about this guy. Peter starts slowly walking toward them. The thugs suddenly feel like he is staring straight through their souls, completely terrified by his weirdly calm aura. He simply explains that putting all your faith in guns always hits a hard limit. He tells them to pay attention. He is about to prove that his simple paper shaker cap hits way harder than any actual bullet ever could. The gunmen completely freeze in disbelief. Peter is showing absolutely zero fear of catching a bullet. Instead of backing up, he charges straight into the center of their circle. He viciously strikes every single man in the temple without missing a beat, dropping them instantly and leaving them wondering if he is actually human. Peter casually strolls right through the mob. He already knows these fake pirates absolutely refuse to pull their triggers for one very simple reason. They have him completely surrounded. Every single one of them realizes there is a huge chance he might actually dodge. A missed shot means hitting their own teammates. That tiny bit of hesitation ruins their whole plan. Getting completely frustrated, one thug screams at everyone to shoot. Another hesitates before a second guy loudly orders them to fire. But Peter just mutters that the real entertainment is only getting started. He casually tosses the inside of some pepper shakers straight up. That spicy powder flies right into the shooter's eyes. One guy starts screaming about how he is completely blind. Another panics, shouting that Peter has completely vanished. Before anyone can even blink, our guy drops directly into the blind thug's personal space. He whispers that it is a real shame. If they had actually packed melee weapons instead of relying on firearms, maybe they would have survived just a few seconds longer. And now they are completely missing the best part of the night. Somewhere else on the boat, a henchman sprints over to Sword Phantom. She brings some pretty urgent news about the hit squad targeting Chairman Choi. Sword Phantom asks if they are dead. Getting a yes, she realizes her entire hand-picked squad of elites just got wiped out. She figures Chairman Choi must have been keeping that dangerous old man hidden this whole time. Before that even sinks in, another lackey runs up. Peter was just spotted down at the restaurant. She is totally confused since he should be in the VIP suite. But watch this, crazy reports suddenly start flooding in from everywhere. People are seeing Peter in the control room, headquarters, the pool, the engine bay, the casino, and right in the main lobby. Sword Phantom is losing it. How is one guy in 6 places at once, and what insane mind game is he pulling here? Furious, she barks at her minion to figure out what the hell is happening. They need to move right now and catch whoever is trashing her operation. The grunt immediately scrambles to obey. Down below, the Dako brothers watch all this beautiful chaos unfold, thinking their guys are doing fantastic work. Nobody else knows this is entirely Peter pulling the strings. The brothers think back to when he asked them a very specific question. He wanted to know what VIP actually stands for. They jokingly answered with very important paychecks. Then they corrected it to very important people. Peter calmly explained those rich guests were all in extreme danger. He pointed out how Sword Phantom kept dragging away all the VIP bodyguards, making them vanish completely. The ugly truth was obvious: she planned to slaughter every guest on board. Completely stunned by this nightmare scenario, the brothers got handed a special A-rank mission. Peter told them to disguise themselves as janitors, roam around, and casually spread a nasty rumor about the shipmaster wanting to execute the wealthy guests. Scrubbing floors, they acted out a totally fake private chat. They spoke loudly so nearby VIPs would hear, pretending to panic about exposing their boss's huge murder scheme. Those eavesdropping guests instantly rallied their remaining guards. Once a gunshot rang out and sent the regular crew into a massive panic, everyone bought into the betrayal rumor completely. The brothers started screaming about an old man brawling with the ship's staff, making absolutely sure people believed Peter was here. Now, back in real time, a guard warns Sword Phantom about the mess. Things are totally spiraling since the guests refuse to trust her crew. She completely loses it, slapping the guy hard and cursing Peter out as a filthy mole. She swears she will rip him to shreds. Her right-hand man offers to drag Peter back, but she immediately shuts that down. She says Peter is just like a real underground mole. He will pop up somewhere completely different if they just dig aimlessly. She demands to handle this personally, reminding her partner exactly what she is truly capable of doing. Grabbing a vial of poison, her logic is terrifyingly simple. To catch a pest hiding in the dirt, you just blow up the ground. She declares they are killing the mole alongside 200,000 innocent people. Peter suddenly realizes the threat is absolutely real. Looking around, folks are already dropping fast, coughing up blood from their noses and mouths the second they inhale it. He knows there is absolutely zero time left to reach the actual control room. He has to get every single person above deck right now, otherwise everyone, including the innocent guests and his own crew, will die. Staring at the chaos, Peter realizes Sword Phantom has absolutely no clue. She does not get that he has survived impossible odds like this countless times before. This specific chemical weapon stands out as the Soviet Union's deadliest creation ever made, a liquid capable of wiping out thousands with just drops. And this pure weapon of mass destruction was just unleashed on regular people. Peter runs through the horrific symptoms of the gas: white hair, eyes bleeding out, coughing thick blood, and finally, a guaranteed death. He quickly realizes the poison itself isn't the real nightmare here. It's the sheer, absolute hysteria it sparks among all the passengers. Panic floods the casino lobby, hallways, and swimming pool. Hell's gates just swung wide open. People hit their breaking limit. Rational thought just vanishes completely. Peter knows he has to drive this terrified crowd straight up to the top deck to survive. Emergency alarm, the public address system. He considers both, since that's the absolute fastest way to move everyone. But wait, a major flaw. This ghost cruise doesn't have that gear. He can't just run around shouting directions. Plus, he's weighed down because Simon is still completely knocked out. Now watch this. Chaos, the panic mob, keeps sprinting down the halls, screaming in pure terror. That poison gas is closing in. Peter tries pushing through the crowd, but it's only getting worse. His single path back to the room, totally blocked by this endless wave of people. What now? Right then, Chairman Choi yells out. He orders the crowd to stop their frantic pushing. Peter turns around. The chairman is actually carrying Simon on his back. The old leader spots him and yells over, and our boy tells him to go find a safe spot. He'll carry Simon. But Chairman Choi straight up refuses, explaining the Diha group got this big for one reason. They never abandon what belongs to them. That rule definitely applies to friends. He tells Peter to handle his own mission. Leave Simon with him. Watching him, Peter thinks about how wild life gets. Sometimes, people really do step up as dependable adults. Peter trusts him with Simon. He promises he'll be back. The older guy warns him not to run toward the poison, but Peter just sprints forward. No hesitation. Chairman Choi watches him, hit by a crazy feeling. Peter can literally make miracles happen. It's a vibe he remembers feeling way back. Meanwhile, an orchestra plays while the Sword Phantom's goons scream in terror. She's busy celebrating her so-called flawless victory, assuming Peter, those VIPs, and the Spiral Sword Master just melted, completely dissolved by the gas, leaving nothing but dead bodies for her boss. But then the whole ship starts groaning and cracking. The structure fails. Everyone stares in pure shock. The entire boat is tilting. The villain screams out, "Why the hell is the ship moving?" 5 minutes earlier, Peter dropped the guards and broke into the control room. He booted up the admin system, overriding the autopilot and checking out the ballast tank sections. He punches in the commands, knowing one thing: emptying those massive water tanks that keep the boat balanced, it'll force a massive instant tilt. No alarms for the passengers? Fine. Peter decides to create a physical threat nobody can possibly ignore, one that forces everyone straight to the top. The manual command goes through. The first tank opens, and that violent shift in balance sets off a massive panic. Passengers are screaming. The whole ship is sinking. Peter just keeps pushing his plan. He knows that heavy poison gas will naturally sink lower, buying him time to face the sword phantom. Up in the lobby, a guy points survivors toward the deck. He promises safety, but that hope dies fast. Two crew members are straight up executing a passenger. Someone begs for a way out. These vicious crewmen just laugh. Doors are locked. They mock the rich folks for thinking money matters against death. Then, out of nowhere, the heavy door violently shatters. Junior Dew steps through the rubble. He casually mentions the door put up a decent fight. The crowd cheers, thanking the cleaning brothers for the epic rescue. The chairman watches in pure relief. Up above, a goon tells the sword phantom about Peter. He's down in the auction area. She decides to finish him off herself. Before leaving, she picks a very specific perfume from her stash. She wants a truly unforgettable scent. Too sweet, she skips it. Instead, she grabs the exact same bottle used on the Spiral Swordmaster. She knows this toxic fragrance will make Peter hallucinate absolute nightmares. His tragic fate is locked. Hitting the auction room with her sidekick, the sword phantom spots them, Peter and Chairman Choi, but then she freezes. Somebody else is there. She starts yelling, demanding to know where the real Peter went, calling the guy in front of her a little rat. Peter calmly taps a mic. He announces the official start of the final auction for this ghost cruise. You gotta love this guy. He brings out a fake apostle of the Glory Club. Yep, the villain herself. She screams at him to shut up. Peter just keeps talking, reading her titles, like Captain of the Phantom Squad and the Glory Justice Faith Sword. He opens the bidding at 10 cents. The sword phantom pulls her blade in absolute rage. Peter just coolly drops the price. 5 cents, 3, 2, 1. Nobody bids. He completely mocks her worth, offering $0 and 0 cents to take her out. The infuriated woman readies her strike. Peter cuts right in, asking if she seriously thinks she beat the legendary Spiral Swordmaster that night. He tells her she still has a ton to learn. Peter draws his blade, challenging her to witness the actual peak of the Spiral Swordmaster technique. The sword phantom brushes our boy off as a total joke. Her companion totally agrees, pointing out Peter looks like a literal high schooler, someone who definitely could not copy that move. But even so, the sidekick feels seriously uneasy. He senses Peter actually has the aura of a true master, a very real, genuine threat. The ally begs her to let Peter attack first, but she snaps back, claiming the kid is just getting way too cocky. She orders him to stay completely out of it. The comrade just stares, knowing she refuses to listen. The sword phantom decides she has a little something to show our protagonist. She promises to demonstrate exactly how she slices up annoying little rats. Her sidekick recognizes that exact look on her face. It is the identical expression she wore the day she slaughtered 2,000 men. Flashback time. He remembers how a 1,000-year-old assassin guild got wiped out in one single day, all thanks to a Yakuza betrayal. Her young master demanded revenge. From that exact second, she poured her entire soul into training, just waiting for payback day. A huge Yakuza guy mocks the Koryu members. He jokes about old rumors how their victims never even realized they got cut, like getting killed by a literal ghost. He laughs the whole thing off, bragging that nobody brings a sword to a high-tech fight. Sure, they might be fast, but he highly doubts any sword can beat a bullet. The guy recognizes the sword phantom as the chief's daughter right away. She's basically a carbon copy of her mother. He creeps on her, telling her to come closer so he can see just how much they match. Furious, she calls him completely disgusting. She drops a chilling fact. People think Toryu victims die without knowing it, but she always makes absolutely sure her targets feel it. They always know the exact moment the blade hits. The boss laughs at the brat, asks if she has a death wish, and just fires. 1 second later, he is completely baffled to find himself collapsed on the floor. The sword phantom reminds him. She already told him her victims know exactly when they get sliced open. The companion remembers that brutal night. She faced down 2,000 members of that Yamato gang. Every single one of them got brutally butchered. Back in the present, the sword phantom politely asks Peter how he wants to die. Such a generous choice. Our boy just watches as she slips off her shoes. He figures she's dropping weight to max out her speed, but he really has to wonder, is speed alone enough to make her an apostle? She warns Peter that thinking is pointless here, because he is dying no matter what. She explains the title of Sword Phantom. It only gets passed down to the absolute best swordmaster in every generation. And guess what? She prepared a special technique just for him, a move not even the Spiral Swordmaster got to see. Suddenly, Peter realizes she vanished. He quickly figures out those foot bandages. They cut friction to boost her movement speed to an insane degree. He admits she is unbelievably fast, and yet, she also packs absolutely terrifying physical strength. She explains that people always make the same dumb mistake. They think being fast means you hit weak, but anyone who actually believes that ends up dying by her blade. Peter figures out her trick. She is not just moving fast, she is channeling the massive recoil from that speed into pure physical power, hitting way above her own weight class. Huge shockwaves ripple outward as their blades collide. She gloats that he totally missed. Her companion sighs in relief, thinking he worried over nothing. Our boy is completely stuck on defense without a single opening to counterattack. But then the ally notices something crazy. Peter shows zero signs of sweating or giving up. Then the sword phantom demands to see that legendary spiral swordmaster technique, while Peter just casually watches her leave wild after images. The speed makes it feel like he's fighting 5 people at once. The sidekick suddenly realizes Peter is not trapped on defense. He is just choosing not to hit back yet. Panicking, the sidekick tries to jump in, but the sword phantom kicks him away again, screaming at him to stay out of her fight. Then our protagonist casually asks if she's getting tired fighting all by herself, and suggests it is time to call for backup. She snaps that he is arrogant, but Peter calmly fires back her technique. Does not even hold a candle to the spiral swordmaster. He openly mocks the whole Couture history if this is all they can do. Completely enraged, she dares him to try dodging her next swing. The fight ramps up. Peter flashes back to a chat with his mentor Simon. The old man admitted that with experience, he realized just how many monsters were stronger than him. The mentor had asked Peter directly, "Do you really think you can become the greatest?" And Peter always knew Simon was already a top-tier legend. The guy literally invented a combat style nobody else even dared to try. The spiral slash. Peter unleashes the technique, breaking it down for the completely stunned sword phantom. He stopped her easily, because every single time she launched an attack, she pushed off a specific spot, totally exposing her flight path. All he had to do was leave his sword right in that path. Her severed arm hits the floor and she screams in pure shock. Keijo rushes to her side, but she just barks a desperate command. Detonate the perfume right now. Peter admits she was way faster and stronger than he figured, but against the spiral swordmaster, she was always destined to lose. Completely blind with rage, she glares daggers and swears she will kill him. The explosive perfume pops, quickly spreading everywhere. Peter instantly covers his face, he knows that smell. Sword Phantom laughs and tells him to stop struggling. Now that the gas is out, they are basically walking corpses. She taunts him. Does he think the Apostle Peter can save him now? Because even a legend cannot stop what comes next. That hallucination perfume floods the entire room. Zero chance of escape. She just laughs, loving the sight of him getting dizzy. Sword Phantom mocks our guy, telling him those flashy tricks mean absolutely nothing now. Kaja warns Peter he is going to end up exactly like the old man, completely helpless and wide open. Peter quickly weighs his options. Maybe punch straight through the hull and dive right into the ocean? Sword Phantom shuts that fantasy down fast. She promises he is going to die right on that floor. She keeps taunting him, bragging that even if a rescue team showed up, the second they breathe this stuff in, everyone would just end up flopping on the floor like fish out of water. Peter casually wraps his necktie around his blade. Kaju suddenly notices something weird. Peter isn't stumbling at all, and what exactly is he doing to that sword? Sword Phantom notices him holding his breath. She sneers, asking how long he can really last when the gas has already flooded the whole space. Peter calmly repeats her own words. The perfume makes escape impossible, right? She smirks, confirming he is dead on. Our guy just smiles. He admits he has been waiting this entire time to hear her say that. Keijo finally clicks that something is very wrong. Peter flicks a lighter open, setting that cloth-wrapped blade totally ablaze. He tells her he knew she felt completely untouchable with that little secret weapon. Watch closely, he's about to show her how fatal that overconfidence really is. Sword Phantom just stares at him, completely stunned. Kaijo puts the pieces together. The perfume is highly flammable. Peter can easily blow the whole place sky high. How did Peter even figure that out? Then it hits him. He remembers an earlier clash where our guy must have cracked the secret. Sword Phantom brushes it off as just another cheap bluff. Gripping her weapon in her one good hand, she growls that a little campfire will not save his life. She insists the room is drenched in her gas, daring him to see how far that tiny flame gets before the hallucinations kick in. Peter just says he is incredibly glad she finally gets it. Sword Phantom stares in total disbelief, completely baffled. Our boy proudly announces he is burning this whole place down. He swings the flaming sword, and fire instantly rips across the room. Sword Phantom screams in panic, wondering why the actual floor is igniting. Keijo realizes the horrifying truth. Peter planned this from minute one. He remembers Peter smashing all those wine bottles earlier. It wasn't to create glass traps, he was quietly soaking the floor in pure alcohol. Furious, Sword Phantom calls him a little brat and blindly charges in. Peter coldly watches her rush in. Losing that left arm completely wrecked her center of balance. Her movements are so much slower and weaker now, proving she has finally hit her absolute limit. Our guy actually admits he didn't expect the fight to end quite like this. But it was definitely the smartest play. With her blood pressure spiking like that, she would have popped a vessel anyway. Suddenly, Kaijo chops her hard right on the back of the neck, knocking her out cold. Peter casually asks if he wants next. Instead, Kajo just scoops her up, tells Peter he just made a massive mistake, and bolts out of there. The entire lobby goes up in roaring flames as Kajo carries her to safety. Running away, Kajo recalls a talk with his boss, who asked if he really wanted the girl back. He had said yes, promising they would head straight home after finishing the job. His boss found their little trip back to Japan pretty interesting. The big guy had stood up, asking what Kajo actually planned to do next. Was he going to revive Kutoru or start something entirely new? He noted that the people of Kautoru are always hiding secrets, a trait he found incredibly fascinating. Back on the burning ship, Peter calmly walks up the staircase right through the inferno. Sure, the plan worked flawlessly, but things are getting complicated. He realizes the connection between Kautoru and tonight's chaos runs dangerously deep. He thinks back to a phone call with Jiwon while they were traveling to the ship. She warned him about their leader, a kid who seized control of Kautoru early, dropping thousands despite his tiny size. And yet, his ally just cannot figure out how that girl became the new Simon. Peter needed some answers. She explains the rule. Apostles are strictly handpicked from agents trained at the Yang Wang orphanage. These kids have absolutely irreplaceable skills. They are literally considered way more dangerous than nuclear weapons. So why was Sword Phantom chosen for the role? She is entirely inferior to the previous Simon in every single aspect. The informant smells a rat. She wonders how on earth this girl scored a total free pass. Peter remembers this and realizes Giwon was completely right. He pictures her staring at the computer, totally baffled by the raw data. Out on the burning deck, Peter stands surrounded by flames. He genuinely wonders why anyone would choose to live deep in Sword Phantom's shadow. He asks his opponent if he feels the same. Stepping right out of the fire is Kajo, and get this, he is the true Apostle Simon, a high-ranking member of the Japanese killer syndicate Kautoru, answering directly to their leader. Facing off, Kajo gives him a grim warning. He was taught that in this brutal industry, the curious always die early. Peter admits that is pretty solid advice, but he suddenly realizes he knows absolutely nothing about this guy's fighting style. Unlike his brutal clash with Nathaniel, Peter has literally zero way to predict this guy's next move. Yet despite playing a background support role, the man radiates an entirely unnatural level of power. Kajo asks if Peter is just Chairman Choi's simple bodyguard. He starts questioning his true identity and background. Peter smirks, saying he would love to share the details. Studying Kajo closely, Peter decides he absolutely must uncover the truth about this guy. He steps forward, totally locked in and ready for war. He throws the threat right back. The curious die early. The fight kicks off, but Peter instantly struggles to get a solid read on his opponent. Karate? Peter initially wonders if Kajo trained in that. He quickly tosses that idea out. The man's bizarre stance looks nothing like traditional martial arts. Since Peter has never seen a fighting style like this anywhere, he heavily suspects Kajo is hiding something massive. Is he using some highly classified Kutoru assassination technique? No, Peter feels that just cannot be the case here. Leaving himself this wide open with his vital points completely undefended goes against every rule of proper combat technique. This sloppy defense mixed with such a weird stance leaves Peter thoroughly confused, yet the man moves with terrifying innate talent. It almost looks like nobody ever formally taught him how to fight. He was just naturally born for the battlefield, just an animal. Peter realizes this does not feel like structured combat, but rather the raw, completely instinctive violence of a wild beast. Even though Peter should have easily landed multiple clean hits by now, Kajo dodges every single strike using those incredibly unorthodox movements. Peter quickly figures out that Kajo wastes zero time making complex tactical decisions. He just runs entirely on a natural-born instinct for combat. So many questions. This crazy realization only brings up more. He simply cannot understand how Kajo possesses such top-tier combat talent. While completely lacking any refined, specific attack techniques, Peter closely watches the guy's eerie flexibility and his blindingly swift, unreadable footwork. He studies that totally undefined style and suddenly puts the pieces together. Sliding backward across the roof, Kajo admits Peter is pretty strong, but Kajo assumes he has already seen the full extent of Peter's abilities. He decides revealing his own hidden power here will not be necessary. Peter flat out calls Kajo clumsy. He points out that despite all that incredible raw skill, his offense and defense are just horribly inefficient. Did anyone ever actually teach him? Peter asks, before quickly correcting himself. More accurately, they never even allowed him to learn. Simon is totally stunned, wondering how Peter managed to figure that dark secret out. Peter shakes his head in absolute bewilderment. Kajo is clearly powerful enough to be a massive force all on his own, yet he somehow spent his entire life hiding away in Sword Phantom's shadow. Insane. Peter wonders aloud what kept him suppressed for so incredibly long, asking if Team 1 ever finished their mission. A distant memory flashes through Kajo's mind. The mighty chief of Kataru asks if Team 1 completed their assigned mission. A loyal subordinate quickly confirms they have. The scene shifts over to the real Kataru headquarters where the 23rd chief currently resides. His subordinate mentions that Team 1, led by a young woman, somehow managed to take down the powerful second Oru. The chief sighs, remarking that his people truly deserve a much better life. He explains their brutal philosophy: the true way of Kautoru is striking a victim dead before they even realize what hit them. Questioning if his own people actually did this, the chief firmly decides this is definitely not the Kautoru way. He describes the bloody aftermath as the work of an untamed beast. It looks exactly like the brutal marks left by a wild animal taking pure revenge. When the nervous subordinate clarifies that their team did not actually cause this, the chief demands to know exactly what he means. The guy explains that absolutely no other organization was involved either. The target was simply way too difficult for Team 1. Kajo, now fully identified as Apostle Kajo, Kagyo handled the entire mission solo. Sometime later, the chief sits down at home to discuss him with a subordinate. The boss admits Kagyo has some serious, wildly dangerous talent. He points out he is the absolute last of the Dokiryu bloodline. Looking back on his whole life, the chief reflects that Kagyo was straight up born to kill. The underling suggests quietly taking him out to stop info leaks. In response, the boss asks what he knows about fleas. He explains they can jump way past their own size, but trap one in a jar long enough and it stops jumping higher than the lid. It just accepts that ceiling as its absolute limit. The chief admits he trapped Kagyo exactly like that tiny bug. He made sure the kid can try jumping all he wants, but he will never surpass his master. Kagyo hears every word from outside the door. Back in the present, Peter tells him he lived his whole life suppressed, completely unable to function without his boss. Kagyo tells our boy he is completely doomed. Peter fires back that he disrespects his master's lesson. Tired of the chatter, Kagyo steps right forward. He says Peter talks way too much. Peter asks what is wrong with their chat, but as they clash, this is where things get wild. Every single reckless creative move Kagyo pulls off proves he never needed any formal training. Peter realizes Kagyo always felt entirely confident he could crush any opponent. He uses pure instinct to project a real predator's killing intent. But Peter knows better. He is definitely hiding something. They trade heavy attacks and slide backward. Kagyo notices Peter keeps constantly aiming for his legs. He figures out our boy is setting a trap to pin him down. He remembers Peter using that exact tactic on the sword Phantom. Kagyo decides to flip this right to his advantage. He plans to fake falling into it. He wants to bait Peter into dropping his guard and rip his head off. But suddenly, something feels wrong. Our boy just vanished. A massive chain wraps tight around Kagyo's neck, hoisting him straight up. He struggles hard. He is in serious trouble. When did Peter even set this up? Peter explains Kagyo's natural instinct and skill are super impressive. But watching him fight the sword Phantom made the guy way too alert. By forcing Kagyo to actually overthink and strategize something he never does, our boy caught him totally off guard. Peter says it is over, bragging that even a chainsaw could not snap those chains. But Kagyo absolutely refuses. Sharp blades suddenly burst right out of his hands. He desperately tries cutting through the metal. Peter spots the claws and tells him to just quit. But watching him struggle, he realizes this is exactly what Kagyo kept hidden. Our boy remembers seeing something crazy like this during the auction. Kagyo literally melted another human. He guesses those blades melt anything they touch. Getting up close just became ridiculously dangerous. Peter realizes things just got harder. Pay attention. Kagyo makes his move. Kagyo claims it is too late now. With his power revealed, Peter will disappear without a single trace. Then he grabs our boy right by the face. Kagyo assumes even the tiniest thought of combat will be more than enough to finish Peter off. But the assassin quickly spots something weird. Our boy charges right at him and grabs his wrist tight. Peter could have easily dodged that move. Kagyo wonders why he intentionally threw himself into danger instead of just running away. He soon figures out Peter only faked taking the hit. He just wanted a much closer look at his palm. He barks that those cheap tactics will not help him. He is going to die here regardless of his little tricks. Sliding back, Peter jumps away to get some distance. He realizes Kagyo intentionally cut his own palm to wield those deadly claws. But more importantly, our boy spots the real mystery. It is the strange liquid bleeding straight from the opponent's hand. Facing off again, Peter asks what exactly is inside that blood. He notes it seemingly melts everything from solid metal to flesh. He is totally confused about how human blood packs such insane destructive power. Kagyo brushes the question off. He tells Peter he has to actually defeat him first if he wants to know. No answers for him today. Kagyo just charges in. Peter notes the guy just became significantly faster and vastly stronger. With his true power showing through those claws, our boy knows this fight just got nasty, all thanks to that unique blood. He simply cannot find an opening to get close and attack. As Kajio strikes from every direction, Peter barely grabs his wrist again. Realizing what is happening, Peter mentions only one group ever had this specific blood type. He admits he is pretty surprised, thinking they went totally extinct ages ago. Our boy asks if Kageo belongs to them, speaking the dreaded name Dokuyoryu aloud. Kageo stands completely shocked that Peter actually knows this dark history. The protagonist calmly explains everyone thought the entire Dokuryu bloodline was wiped out. He asks how Kageo even survived. Flashback time, a chief stands beside his subordinate right after they just wiped out all their targets. Done. The Dokuryu clan is officially extinct. The subordinate asks what to do with the leftover items, but then the chief spots huge wooden containers filled with actual children submerged in liquid. His underling explains that every single baby here has already died, except for just one. He asks if they should go ahead and finish it. The chief actually finds it pretty fascinating that this one kid somehow survived everything. He decides keeping just one alive wouldn't really hurt anyone, and that single moment kicks off Kagio's massive lifelong feud with the Kotoru faction. That lone surviving kid was Kagio. He spends his entire youth trapped inside Kotoru, constantly training in brutal combat alongside all the other children. Sparring begins. The boy effortlessly crushes every single peer. One kid screams that his leg is burning. It quickly becomes obvious the limb is completely dead. The other students instantly yell for a doctor. Someone angrily asks Kagio why he went so incredibly hard in a simple spar, but the kid just insists he didn't do anything wrong. The chief watches closely. He notes that for generations, the Dokuryu clan took in poison-resistant people, feeding them lethal toxins just to crank up their blood's deadly acidity. He figures out this insane process was meant to breed a super poison warrior with pure, innate battle talent. The boss realizes that if left alone, this kid will hit absolute monster levels of power, so he firmly decides to keep him alive. Years pass by. A strict instructor teaches the younger kids to kill in one strike. The teacher emphasizes the Kotoru way, slashing victims way before they even notice they are dead. Kagio just watches it all from the sidelines. He finally understands that his own toxic blood makes him entirely different. It makes everyone absolutely terrified to go near him. An instructor hits him hard and orders him to clean up. Practicing completely alone, the boy wonders why he was born like this, why everyone hates him so much. Training alone, he punches a heavy tree until it finally drops. As it crashes down, he spots a little bird and gently tries to return it to its nest but watches in pure horror as it melts in his hand. Realizing anything touching his toxic blood will instantly be destroyed, the boy decides something dark. If he is doomed to be hated anyway, he might as well make everyone fear him. Flashback over. Kagio tells Peter that Kotoru destroyed his entire clan. He asks why Peter would ever serve them when he could have rebuilt his own clan. The protagonist stays completely stoic through it. Peter tells him to stop talking since he does not know him. When Peter asks who Simon really is, Kagio starts speculating, wondering if the protagonist is associated with Apostle Peter. Then he must be part of Glory. Kagio notes that Peter's sword skills rival his own master's. Wondering why he has not heard of him, Peter just reiterates, "You will have to win to find out." Then he instantly lands a brutal kick right on Kagio's chin. The protagonist quickly realizes a harsh truth even holding back. That kick did absolutely nothing. It is a classic catch-22 situation. He simply cannot win this fight unless he somehow makes that blood non-poisonous. Kagio violently attacks with a massive strike, sending Peter crashing straight through a brick wall. Shaking it off, Peter suddenly spots some random cleaning equipment nearby. The enemy smashes right through the rubble. He tells Peter to just give up now, offering a quick, painless death if he is that angry. Kagio aggressively demands to know where Apostle Peter is. In response, our protagonist casually brushes off his shoulder. He remarks that his opponent is impressive. This guy has probably never faced true defeat. When Peter actually tells him to bring it on, the enemy looks surprised. He asks if Peter is completely joking, since his own life is on the line. Our boy insists he is here for a serious fight and then calmly picks up a mop. Kagio asks if he has already given up, but the protagonist casually explains that he is going to use his ultimate secret weapon. The enemy just laughs, insisting that at close or long range, Peter has absolutely zero chance of winning. Peter concedes he might actually be right, but he notes that Kagio has no idea just how incredibly dangerous this fight is about to get. Here is where it gets crazy. Seeing that mop, Kagio asks Peter if he seriously chose a weapon for long-range combat. Our protagonist just smirks. "You will find out soon enough." The opponent confidently notes that a cheap wooden stick is completely useless against his long reach. Yet Peter stays entirely confident, even though Kagio cannot quite grasp what on earth he plans to do with a simple mop. He knows our protagonist always thinks ahead. Peter calls out. Complaining that waiting around is getting boring, Kagio glares at Peter. He suddenly realizes he cannot get close, that mop is perfectly controlling the combat distance. The attacker decides he just has to tank the hits to close that gap. He is not afraid of a little injury. Believing one clean strike will end this fight, he lunges but suddenly finds his sharp claws completely tangled in those dirty mop fibers. Peter triumphantly tells him he is officially trapped and should just give up. Kagyo instantly dismisses it as a bad joke, aggressively slicing right through the wooden mop. He yells that such a pathetic, weak trap cannot stop his full power. He aggressively charges forward, violently smashing right through the broken debris. The fighter admits he completely underestimated our hero. Peter clearly has way more to offer than just cheap tricks. Peter fires back the real problem is Kagyo underestimating his own limits. His rival demands to know what that means. Getting seriously annoyed by the talk, Kagyo moves in to silence him for good. But then check this out. Peter stands his ground, while Kagyo suddenly collapses hard. He scrambles to figure out what just happened. Did he trip on the broken mop? He tries to spin around, but his arms are completely failing him. Peter drops the truth. He actually has a highly lethal weapon, which is exactly why he avoids fighting up close. Turns out, Kagyo's toxic blood has one massive weakness. Whenever that intense acid hits a heavy alkaline chemical, a reaction strips away all the danger, leaving it totally useless. Because Peter soaked that mop in those exact chemicals, the trap completely shut down the enemy's main weapon. Kagyo struggles to get up. He realizes the whole mop thing was just a distraction to slip the chemicals straight into his bloodstream. He clenches his fist tightly, shouting that he does not need his toxic blood to win. Suddenly, the sword phantom calls out from behind him. She announces she is going to kill Peter herself. Kagyo calls out to his master, while Peter warns her to walk away if she wants to live. Completely ignoring the threat, she swears to take his head with her own two hands. But right as she speaks, her sword clatters to the ground. Kagyo panics and yells out, why did she leave the safety of the ship after he told her to wait? She replies that she has had enough. Kagyo begs her to stop, saying she is only hurting herself more. But she stands firm she has to kill Peter and capture the apostle. She reminds Kagyo of their old promise to run away together once it all ends. Kagyo begs her to just leave the fighting to him. She refuses completely, insisting she can handle this, and asks him to just follow her lead. The second she calls his name, she drops. Kagyo scrambles over to her side, frantically pleading for her to wake up. This exact moment hits hard, triggering a heavy flashback back to a time when he desperately wanted out. He knew leaving those gates would mean escaping all the endless bullying and daily abuse, but he stayed behind for one single reason: to be with her. He pictures the young sword phantom running over with a handful of flowers, so excited to show him how vibrant and sweet they smelled. In that memory, the floral scent washed away all his bitter loneliness. For a second, it completely erased the massive gap in their social ranks. When he warned her to keep her distance from him, she simply laughed out loud. She declared she would hug him as much as she wanted. Soon after, a guard showed up to drag her back inside. Just for talking to her, Kagyo caught a brutal beating from the chief. The man branded him an atrocious monster, just some lowly vile creature. Looking back, they were completely banned from interacting. Between his cursed bloodline and her high royal status, it created a massive wall he could never climb. As the chief trained her to take over the Kutaru title, Kagyo stayed hidden as a lurking shadow, and honestly, that was enough for him. Years pass. On her birthday, the maids shower her with expensive gifts, including some high-end perfume sent straight from the Fujiwara family. Outside, Kagyo clutched his own cheap bottle of perfume, forcing himself to bury those useless feelings forever. He always knew she deserved better. Then everything shattered. The Yamato attacked, flooding the area with deadly gas. Playing the loyal protector, he hid the sword phantom and carried her away as total chaos erupted around them. After that nightmare, she changed completely. She started training with wild obsession. Even when he begged her to rest, she pushed herself until she was literally sick, totally consumed by revenge. Eventually, they spent years hiding in a cave. Once her skills were finally sharp enough, the two of them wiped out 2,000 members of that gang. With their home gone, they talked about escaping to a deserted island. She pictured a quiet life there, though she worried about the terrible heat. Kagyo swore he would always be the shadow keeping her cool. Snapping back to reality, he stares down at the sword phantom in his arms. He suddenly spots that cheap perfume bottle he bought her ages ago. She admits she held onto it for 10 whole years, refusing to waste a single drop. But today, she finally wants to use it. When he warns her it expired years ago, he just sprays it onto himself instead. She whispers that it smells wonderful, thanking him for always having her back. With a soft apology for breaking their promise to run away, she says her final goodbye. She leans in and kisses him. Panic hits him immediately. He realizes she just swallowed his highly toxic blood. He frantically begs her to spit it out, but she smiles, believing this is the perfect ending, hoping her sacrifice lets him live. Tears flood his eyes as he begs her to stay, but it is too late. She slips away right in his arms. Holding the sword phantom tight, Kagyo makes a dark vow. He declares he will gladly grant her final wish, staying completely true to the old promise they made. Hugging her close, he decides to end this entire war just for her. He swears to stand his ground, make her proud, and absolutely destroy Peter and everyone else. Going feral, Kajo digs his claws in and violently rips his chest open to expose his wounds. He launches himself straight at our boy to restart the deathmatch. Peter braces himself, realizing this is not just a simple fight for his opponent anymore, it is personal. Peter gets it. Kajo is throwing absolutely everything into this attack, perfectly willing to destroy his own body along the way. Knowing this guy is ready to die, Peter realizes even a tiny drop of that lethal tainted blood means instant death. So how on earth does he defend against that? Kaguya spots our boy quietly grabbing a couple of fire extinguishers. At first, he expects a basic smokescreen. Then it hits him. Peter plans to use them to stop the bleeding entirely. Think about it for a second. Kajio remembers how every single past opponent met a pathetic end, drowning in total despair. He expects Peter to panic. But no, the protagonist just grabs him out of nowhere. A massive slam into the deck completely shatters the wood. Thick dust kicks up as Kajio coughs from the heavy impact. Flat on the broken floor, Kajio runs the math. If this guy connects to Glory, he has to be an A-rank killer, maybe even an apostle. Knowing literally nothing about this stranger, he finally decides it just does not matter anymore. Game over. With zero reason to keep living, he tells Peter to just finish it. Peter drops a random question. Did Kajio ever wonder why the Yamato Gumi actually attacked the Kiryu? Our boy hints that Glory completely orchestrated the whole bloodbath. He lays out exactly what went down 10 years back. Glory's boss desperately wanted new apostles. He locked his sights firmly on the Kituryu, who ruled the assassination underworld for a solid millennium. After the Kituryu chief flat-out rejected him, the Glory boss swore he would take the entire organization for himself. He pulled it off, backed them right into a brutal corner. Submit or face total ruin. Step 1 meant manipulating the Yamato Gumi into slaughtering the Kituryu. That very night, the historic faction was completely wiped off the map. From there on, every single move Kajio and Sword Phantom made perfectly fit Glory's master plan. They wandered aimlessly after getting revenge. Then Glory stepped in, offering them apostle titles, casually taking exactly what they wanted all along. Kagyo flat-out refuses to believe it. He screams that Peter is lying. The protagonist just tells him to go ask his boss, Raphael. That specific name makes Keijo instantly freeze. It pulls up an old memory Raphael offering him the heavy title of Apostle Simon. He had completely rejected it. He claimed he lived only to serve Sword Phantom, so the boss offered the title to her instead, letting him stay loyal without any betrayal. Back in the present, Kajio violently struggles, with their entire lives completely manipulated right from the very start. A crushing wave of regret hits him. If Glory had never interfered, Sword Phantom could have actually lived a normal, happy life. Boiling over with pure rage, he wonders how that monster ever sleeps at night. Seeing Kajio violently pushing past his physical limits, Peter drops a hard warning. Pushing this far will absolutely kill him. Kagyo fires right back, warning our boy about his own friends. His friends face lethal danger from armed pirates, plus the cruise ship is sinking. He tells Peter to leave now if he wants them alive. Down at the evacuation zone, the Dako brothers frantically push passengers toward the lifeboats. Then the armed pirates suddenly arrive. They scream for everyone to freeze, ordering men to fire right on the boats. Absolute panic erupts everywhere. Junior urgently asks Biggie for a plan, but his brother runs the brutal math: too many enemies and only 2 capable fighters right here. Any bold move just gets everyone killed. Biggie tells his younger brother not to lose his courage. Junior replies that they really need to say that to each other. Meanwhile, the pirates grow pretty cautious. Knowing these brothers have serious skills, they threaten to shoot at the first twitch. Chairman Choi desperately tries negotiating. He offers up a totally astronomical amount of cash for their lives. The pirates instantly refuse. They absolutely will not get fooled again. They solely want his head. With zero hope left for peace, Biggie calls Junior the best brother he could ever ask for. Junior says they can meet again up in heaven. On the deck, Kagyo screams at Peter, why is he still standing here instead of saving his friends? The protagonist calmly explains something crazy: a glory killer is already down among them. Kageo argues even a top killer cannot survive a heavy wall of bullets, but Peter points out some genuinely extraordinary individuals are on this ship. Instantly, Kageo realizes exactly who he means. We cut right back to the chaotic evacuation area. Out of nowhere, every single pirate gun gets sliced clean in half. Standing right there is the Spiral Swordmaster, Simon, totally conscious again. Despite having only one arm, he sliced through those firearms with completely impossible speed. The Dako brothers, the chairman, and the armed pirates are completely stunned. Realizing this monster is alive, the pirates quickly back up to keep a safe distance. Simon lets out a very quiet sigh, flashing back to a conversation with Peter years ago. Our boy asked about the absolute worst-case scenario for a swordsman. He specifically asked what the teacher would do upon losing an arm. Simon joked about just killing himself, before suggesting he might open a little noodle shop instead. Later, he intentionally broke his own arm to force himself to train with only one. Simon told him that while basic logic dictates a swordsman needs two hands, he wanted to shatter those limits and fully master a brand new spiral sword technique. Cutting back to the present, the spiral swordmaster swings with his one remaining arm, unleashing a massively powerful left-handed slash. The crazy technique absolutely shreds everything in front of him, and he proudly announces he finally perfected the move. He kept his promise to Peter. Once the smoke clears, our guy confirms every single person on board actually made it out completely safe. The Ghost Cruise goes down in flames, totally wiping out the second base of glory. Over on the yacht, the Daco brothers stand before Simon, looking at the spiral swordmaster with pure awe. They introduce themselves as Biggie and Junior, totally blown away to be meeting a real apostle in the flesh. These two have always dreamed of achieving that kind of greatness, so standing right there leaves them completely starstruck. Simon gives them this awkward little smile, telling them they really do not need to make a scene. But Peter quietly leans in and tells him to just play along. The brothers keep up the massive praise. Biggie hypes up Simon for his peerless swordsmanship, while Junior adds that the moves they just witnessed were seriously breathtaking. The swordmaster jokes around, asking if people really see him that way, and our boy quickly whispers at him to just keep up the whole act. The brothers then ask if he ever met the legendary Peter, repeating wild rumors about his power to destroy entire cities. Simon laughs at the exaggeration, joking that casually moving mountains is way more in line with Peter's real skill set. The brothers find this absolutely hilarious. Meanwhile, our boy quietly sulks, realizing these guys never seem to laugh at any of his own jokes. Simon then wraps his arms right around the brothers, claiming he actually spoke to Peter about them very recently. The brothers are totally electrified, begging to know what he said. The swordmaster winks directly at Peter, then tells them the guy believes they have real potential to become apostles too. Right on cue, the brothers erupt into loud, joyful cheers. Shortly after, Chairman Choi walks over. Peter insists he is totally fine, even though the chairman strongly suggests he needs to rest. The businessman turns down a break for himself too, explaining that surviving the ruthless weapons industry forced him to build up some serious stamina. Simon jumps in to warn the chairman helping them out will definitely make him a huge target for Glory. But Chairman Choi stays perfectly calm, noting that Glory still thinks he is away on business. Peter gazes out at the ocean, really thinking the whole situation over. Out of thousands of islands in Korea, Yule is incredibly isolated, and yet Glory tracks Simon down there with total ease. Now watch this connection click. Our boy realizes Glory had to know about their alliance the entire time. Raphael is definitely furious over getting humiliated, but this is just the start of a much bigger war. Later on, at Jiwon's house, she greets Simon with a chaotic mix of affection and harsh insults, teasing him for looking super old and smelling like a washed-up old man. The swordmaster reminds her about the good old days when she chased after him, calling him way more handsome than any famous movie star. But the blind woman totally brushes that off as ancient history. When he jokingly yells out that her harsh words are physically hurting him, she points out how ridiculous he sounds, especially since she is just patting him on the back. Things get serious real quick. Simon asks what Raphael is actually planning, pointing to the messy schemes at Yongwon Hospital and the Ghost Cruise. He asks if Peter and Jiwon are secretly teaming up against him, and the host explains Raphael's ultimate goal, the complete and total elimination of Peter, and everything he stands for. The story flashes back to 2013 at Yongwon Cathedral, where all the former apostles gather around Father Gabriel. One apostle reports they have finally achieved real independence and brought peace to the whole nation, acknowledging the heavy sacrifice of the many kids buried under those tombstones. Father Gabriel looks at them with deep affection, officially granting all 12 apostles their retirement. The priest kindly encourages them to leave the violence behind and go experience the real outside world. Raphael, the priest's right-hand man and leader of Glory, violently pushes back. He just cannot understand why his father would throw away such incredibly powerful assets. The priest gently explains that the apostles are not weapons, but his beloved children, and the world simply does not need their services anymore. He orders Raphael out, but that blunt rejection completely fuels the young guy's dark frustration. Convinced his father has gone soft, the Glory leader completely snaps, punching a statue until it finally collapses. He decides the Lord's will belongs to him now, taking full control. He officially establishes the Glory Club, using the orphanage's good name to build a massive global killer organization. Make no mistake, this is where the grudge begins. To win, he decides he has to wipe out the original apostles, making Peter his biggest target today. Cutting back, Jiwon is absolutely fuming. Her blood boils just hearing Raphael's name, and she angrily demands to know why Peter dragged a new apostle into her house. They glance over. Kajio is out cold on the bed. Peter drags a very annoyed Jiwon away, warning her to keep it down. What happens when Sleepyhead wakes up? Peter promises them the guy won't cause any trouble. Simon jokes that he won't be hostile to the hostile either, which earns him a massive glare from Jiwon. But surprise, Kajio is already awake. Jiwon instantly gears up for a kill. Peter questions how a blind woman plans to fight. Simon offers backup, but she just roasts him for only having one arm. They burst inside empty room. Despite his heavy injuries and all those tranquilizers, Kajio vanished completely. Peter stays perfectly calm. He says he isn't sweating it because he knows exactly where the runaway went. Now watch how this connects. Over at his headquarters, Raphael sits with his new apostles, deeply annoyed that Peter's true identity remains a total mystery. The rookie recruits are busy bickering. They trade threats and roast each other for prioritizing gym gains over actual combat skills. Raphael finally snaps. He demands silence, reminding these clowns they are the world's absolute strongest, then smash. The door explodes inward and walks Kajio. Raphael is genuinely shocked to see him alive and immediately demands answers about Peter. Our intruder skips the small talk, firing back a brutal question. Did Raphael personally orchestrate the destruction of the Kaotaru? Kajio remembers how much Sword Phantom trusted this boss, completely unaware he was the actual architect of her total ruin. The villain doesn't even bother denying it. Instead, he whines that blaming him is unfair, insisting Sword Phantom brought this tragedy upon herself. Why? Because she chose to become an apostle. Hearing the awful truth he prayed was a lie, the warrior clenches his fists tight. Standing before the assembled apostles, he gives them a very clear choice: leave this room in 10 seconds or die. Raphael just smirks, telling Kajio he completely misunderstands his current reality. The boss casually points out a fatal detail. Not a single apostle plans on leaving, making this grand threat pretty useless. One apostle openly scoffs at the theatrics. He rudely reminds Kajio that before his lucky promotion, he was just a pathetic struggler crying for help. The gun wielder completely agrees, calling his tantrum super unpleasant and demanding he just get over it already. Another apostle fake sympathizes, urging everyone to play nice since their former coworker fought so desperately to climb the ranks. He suggests calming down over some nice hot tea, but one guy instantly shuts that down hard. No way is he sharing a drink with someone reeking of blood. Right then, Kajio realizes the trap has snapped shut. Here is where it hits the fan. Accepting his grim fate, he vows to drag everyone down into the dirt with him, charging forward. An apostle attacks, telling the target to shut up because his arrogance is getting highly annoying. Kajio fires back, telling John to laugh while he still can. He drops a dark warning. One single drop of his blood is enough to kill him dead. The assassin fully respects that toxic blood, but he doesn't care. He arrogantly bets the target will never even land a single shot on his suit. Kajio gears up for a heavy strike, seeing John put 100% focus on dodging blood splatter. Exploiting that distraction, our guy launches a wild attack from the blind spot. John flashes forward and lands a critical hit, totally convinced he just secured the kill. Kajio barely survives only because the enemy positioned himself slightly behind. He suddenly realizes John actually used a sneaky shield to completely block the counterattack. Meanwhile, Kajio hits his physical limit, feeling super dizzy from massive blood loss. He knows he absolutely has to retreat and heal up so he can survive to fight another day for Jansim. The desperate warrior dives right out through a shattered window. One apostle laughs, figuring their bullying chased him away, but John isn't smiling. He demands they hunt the fleeing traitor down immediately. Raphael stops them cold. He calls Kajio overly emotional and promises they will definitely cross paths again. As he vanishes, the boss actually looks deeply troubled. How on earth did that escapee learn about Bob and Peter's highly secret meeting? Since the rogue isn't connected to Nathaniel, the master strategist figures Peter definitely has some heavy-hitting accomplice feeding him premium resources. He turns his suspicious gaze toward Chairman Choi of the Daehak Group. Rumors say he boarded that cruise despite showing zero interest before. He remembers Choi dodging a crucial meeting by claiming he was away on business. Sneaky apostle suspects the billionaire is secretly backing Peter. The timing feels way too perfect. Raphael mentions needing a fresh weapon warehouse anyway, locking his greedy sights squarely on Daehak Group. He casually hands John the assassination contract. He points out that since John effortlessly murdered Father Gabriel, dropping Chairman Choi should be totally easy. The assassin flexes supreme confidence against the elite security. Seeing his lethal readiness, the commander gives the green light. Meanwhile, Jiwon, Peter, and Simon watch breaking news about a totally mysterious, panic-inducing graffiti message left high up on the Daehak Group tower. The tech guy calls scaling a building that massive completely impossible. But Jiwon drops a bombshell. This is the work of an S-rank assassin. Peter, stepping out of retirement as a former apostle of honor, backs her up. He confirms this is the exact same guy who took down the previous apostle. Speaking of this legendary killer named Alapide, we cut to a heavily guarded room absolutely packed with weapons. Inside, a target is totally panicking, terrified that receiving Alapide's mark guarantees his death. You would be too. Luckily, heavily armed guards and Johan step in. Johan proudly introduces himself, bragging about his years of experience and a flawless assassination success rate. But he suddenly freezes up. He realizes things are wrapping up fast because their killer is already standing right inside the room. Johan instantly strikes out with a blade, but Alapide casually blocks the hit. Alapide actually points out how incredibly easy it was to spot Johan hiding in uniform, all thanks to his distinct scent. Guards frantically yell out to catch the intruder, and then the lights just die. In the pitch black, Johan orders everyone to surround the VIP, but gunshots immediately explode. Alapide notices Johan is cleverly using the muzzle flashes to track his position, praising the veteran's skill. Johan stays fully confident in his decades of experience. But scanning the silent room with night vision goggles, he gets a cold shock. He cannot sense the assassin at all. Even the infrared cameras fail to pick up body heat, like Alapide just vanished into thin air. A knife seems to literally float before Alapide strikes forward, completely undetected. Johan starts firing blindly into the darkness, desperately trying to track this literal ghost. Cutting back to our main group, Simon cannot figure out how any killer bypassed those high-tech cameras. The tech guy argues a fighter as skilled as Johan wouldn't fall to some random thug. But here is the terrifying detail Peter points out. Alapide's real terror is how he always leaves a physical mark before striking. Peter grimly points out that if the mark was already placed, Alapide has firmly decided they are his next targets. Simon then turns to Jiwon, mentioning he is short on time but has one last burning question for her. He actually waves a hand right in front of her face, genuinely wondering how a totally blind woman helps Peter run a computer setup. Since he assumes you need eyes for screen work, he keeps pushing. Jiwon totally loses her patience and threatens to chop off his remaining arm if he keeps pestering her. Tapping her ear, she calmly explains that she uses a screen reader program to hear every single thing happening on the monitor. He awkwardly asks why she even needs to face the screen at all. She just shrugs, explaining that losing her sight made all her other senses significantly sharper. Actually impressed by her hardcore dedication, Simon sincerely thanks her for explaining. Jiwon immediately fires back, warning him she still plans to chop one of his fingers into little pieces later. Simon jokes that Peter treats her like a sidekick, which earns him a hard smack right on the back. He dramatically yelps about his injured arm, but she flatly reminds him she hit his back, not his arm. She sarcastically asks if he is the one who is actually blind here. Peter finally interrupts their goofy bickering, ordering everyone to sit down for a real serious talk. He lays it out clearly Raphael is going to take way more extreme actions moving forward, endangering their whole crew and the remaining former apostles. Since Peter is completely convinced Raphael's forces will actively hunt down and wipe out those veterans, our boy asks Simon to track them down first to ensure their safety. Simon honestly is not too worried, trusting that his fellow apostles can easily protect themselves. But he happily takes the mission anyway, telling Peter to leave the whole thing to him. Before heading out, Simon pauses, checking if Peter and Jiwon will be okay alone. Jiwon answers that since Simon has been exposed to way too many eyes lately, sticking around is just too dangerous. His one and only job right now is finding those remaining apostles. Simon gives Peter a firm handshake, promising to stand by his brother's side, and finally departs. Shortly after, Peter and Jiwon arrive at the massive DH Group headquarters to meet Chairman Choi. The chairman warmly thanks them for showing up, and Peter introduces Jiwon as a longtime friend. Jiwon casually introduces herself as his teacher, his legal guardian, and a master hacker. She boldly asks why a guy with such vast influence chose Peter, especially knowing our boy's tricky association with the Glory organization. Chairman Choi calmly explains that their recent incident completely solidified his choice. He knows Peter is technically part of Glory, but the kid is the exact opposite of everything they represent. Plus, the executive knew a huge clash was inevitable. Raphael, the Glory Club chairman, always hated the strong bond between DH Group and Father Gabriel. Choi fully expected a violent takeover attempt. Having heard enough, Jiwon and Peter advised the chairman to get some solid rest. Walking down the wide corridor, the chairman's assistant reveals the real reason he chose Peter after seeing his insane combat skills against Sangdo Park. But she quickly warns our boy to be extremely cautious regarding Alapide. This guy is the world's greatest assassin, 0 failed missions, famous for leaving his targets completely brutalized, including a former apostle named John. Peter pieces it together quickly. DH Group operations have to stay totally off the books. The chairman clearly doesn't trust Glory. The assistant drops heavy news they brought in Escudo, Europe's absolute top-tier security team. Costa steps up. He leads Escudo as a team, and right away he tells Peter he looks way too young to be a Glory killer. He finally accepts they are partners and tosses a pen as a little introductory gift. Peter catches it without even looking, calmly introducing himself as just a perfectly ordinary bodyguard. Costa clocks those quick reflexes and that sharp attitude immediately. He tells Peter to hold onto the pen and warns him to stay out of Escudo's way. Down in the security center, Jiwon watches the camera feeds. With this massive security net in place, she figures there is absolutely no way Alipede gets inside this building without being noticed. But she notices something weird. These elite Escudo guys look incredibly nervous. Guards are openly stressing out, terrified, because this assassin slaughters both the targets and their protectors. Enter Marco, the B-team leader, who immediately yells at his men for acting so scared. Then he swaggers over. He tries to flirt, but Jiwon flat out tells him to get lost. Marco keeps pushing his luck, so she delivers an ice-cold threat hit on her again, and she will personally demonstrate how to break through Escudo's defenses. He laughs it off and asks her out to dinner anyway. She reminds him he hates Italian food, so he instantly backpedals to keep her happy. Stepping up, Marco finally does his actual job, rallying his crew by reminding them they are the best. Right on cue, Sanchez tells him it is officially time to hunt down Alipede. On his way out, Marco throws back that he will wait for her dinner answer. Jiwon watches him leave and just mutters what a complete goofball he is. Back upstairs, Costa is busy lecturing Peter about how experience makes a bodyguard truly elite. Peter watches them comb the area. They are insanely thorough, yet his gut screams that something is horribly wrong. They haven't found a single shred of evidence, so he flips his perspective to think exactly like Alipede, questioning how to breach this fortress. And then it hits him. The only logical way to bypass an airtight system. Bang! Gunshots suddenly explode down on the 36th floor, and Costa frantically barks orders to move. Peter sprints after the team, but they are too late. A guard stumbles over a completely headless corpse, and reality sets in it as Marco. Costa just freezes. He cannot fathom how anyone bypassed their sensors, and he immediately screams for everyone to secure Chairman Choi. This is where Peter steps up, telling Costa they were looking at it all wrong. The perimeter has been perfectly clean for 2 whole days, which means Alipede never broke in. He has been hiding inside the building this entire time, perfectly disguised as a staff member. Brace yourself for this. Every single phone chimes with a video, showing a dark hallway where Marco is suddenly snatched by an unseen figure. Peter spots the attacker's shadow and knows it is Alipede. This guy is terrifyingly precise and confident. The killer stays out of sight, but the video ends with a message written directly onto Marco's face. It declares that absolutely nobody leaves this building alive, directly calling Peter out for a one-on-one duel.